The Elemental Wizard of Hogwarts Chapter 21-40. Chapter 21-Hogwarts Kitchen Insights. Charles, who had been sitting on the chair for a long time, finally sat up, constantly complaining that the rotten capitalism almost made him sink. He called a lot without changing his face. Duo, I have a question. Do you know how to cook dishes from the Celestial Dynasty? Seal asked cautiously. Hearing Ciel's question, Duo widened his eyes and thought for a while, and suddenly started hitting his head against the wall. Duo doesn't know how to cook. Damn Duo can't fulfill Mr. Shire's request. Duo is a bad elf. Seal was startled, and quickly jumped off the chair to stop Duo. Duo, I ordered you not to hit the wall. Duo stopped hitting the wall when he heard what Seal said, but still looked at Seal pitifully, and Seal thought for a while, added, and don't punish yourself in any way. Then Seal ignored Duo's self-blaming eyes and said sternly to Duo, there's no need to treat yourself like this. I'm just asking. I'm not asking you to do it right away, and even if you don't know how to do it, I can teach you. You guys, I'm very good at celestial cuisine. Seal tried to speak as calmly as possible. He was really afraid that Duo was doing something radical. God, Mr. Charles, are you willing to teach us new dishes? Duo screamed loudly, looking very excited. Hearing a lot of screams, all the elves in the kitchen stopped their work and looked at Seal blankly. Of course, why not? After all, I also like to eat. You can do it, and I can eat it often. What's the problem? Charles looked very happy. Aside from the test of the sorting hat, Seal still really wanted to eat hometown food. After Shire's voice fell, a deafening cheer broke out in the quiet kitchen. Oh my God, Mr. Shire is willing to teach us new dishes. The elves started cheering as if they had won the lottery. Some even started chanting Ciel's name. This is very embarrassing for Ciel. He is teaching new dishes, so it shouldn't be like this. Charles looked at Duo with some embarrassment. Duo also seemed very excited at this time. But Duo still saw Ciel's doubts and explained to Ciel, Sir, it may be that you have taught us a new dish, but for us, this is a big thing, thousands of times. Over the years, no one has taught us more than Ms. Hufflepuff has taught us personally, often giving us recipes to study on our own. So we appreciate it. Quote. Ciel didn't expect this at all, and touched his nose in embarrassment, so he started to ask Duo about the raw materials and seasonings, and Duo and the other elves also started busy for a while. Ciel didn't plan to teach any state banquet dishes, such as boiled cabbage, etc. Ciel would also, just an ordinary Northeast iron pot stew. This is what Shire liked the most in the previous life. Under the guidance of Ciel, Duo quickly completed the preparation of the raw materials and the preparation of the cauldron. What surprised Ciel the most was the magic of the elf. You must know that in the UK in the 1990s, even in the Muggle world, it was rare to see soy sauce produced in the Celestial Dynasty. With the help of only 10 minutes, the brewing of soy sauce was completed, and Shire was amazed. So under the guidance of Shire, Hogwarts began to make the first Chinese cuisine. After a meal, it was finally near noon, and the pot was out. Shire smelled the smell in his memory and almost burst into tears. After making some garlic sauce, Ciel eats 3 big bowls of rice in tears. And shamelessly packed a serving to go back to Hermione and her useless 2 men to taste. After eating and drinking, Ciel spread out on the chair again and started chatting with Duo for some leisure time. The elves of Hogwarts are Hufflepuff's greatest legacy to Hogwarts, and Shire doesn't believe that they don't know some gossip about 1,000 years ago. Finally, under the constant guidance of Ciel, Duo told the stories that circulated among their Hogwarts elves. Legend has it that in ancient times, there were many great magicians, and even when they were very powerful, Muggles called them gods. Something happened, and magic began to decline. The powerful magician was finally no match for time, and slowly began to fall one by one. It is called Ragnarok in Muggle history. After the fall of the powerful gods, magic began to not become so prosperous. Muggles without magical power began to rule the world, and the smart ones began to slowly dominate with their own research on everything. In the world, magic has become some vulnerable groups. Finally, the 4 founders were born. They mastered the power of the 4 elements bestowed by God and were praised by the world. No one knows why they are so powerful. Being favored by the world, they invented a lot of magic invisibly, and the brilliance of magic began to cover the world again. But as the Muggles who dominated the world, they began to fear the existence of magic, and they were afraid that the brilliance of magic would envelope them. Everything was established, and so the century-long witch hunt began. Not all wizards can escape Muggle attacks. Many young wizards born in Muggle families will inadvertently reveal the talent of magic as they grow up, and they do not study much when they are young. Magic, and thus always in a hunted state. Slowly, fewer and fewer people know magic, and many adult wizards, even good white wizards, are driven by Muggles to run away. The 4 founders with elemental talents decided to change all this, so they founded Hogwarts, and used their exclusive magic to slowly cover an area to protect the wizards gathered here and the students in the school. Slowly the village of Hogsmeade and the Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry were formed. Many pure-blood wizards now reject Muggles so much because of the previous witch hunts. If you really want to calculate it strictly, they will always have some powerful relatives who died in that movement. Seal was amazed when he heard it. This kind of secret gossip would not appear in textbooks and history books. But Seal soon found out about Wadian element. The 4 founders are all masters of untold magic. And don't be urban elements. Which made Seal very excited, which represented his guesses before school started. Ravenclaw representing wind, Gryffindor representing fire, Hufflepuff representing earth, and Slytherin representing water. The idea is right. Chapter 22-Hufflepuffs. Seal feels great at this time, because he has proved some conjectures, and he vaguely guesses the truth of the world. I am afraid that those really powerful wizards will eventually embark on the path of elementalization and follow the footsteps of their predecessors. Become a mage. Seal felt a little excited and interrupted a lot of intermittent words. Wait a minute, Duo. Wait a minute. Seal was a little anxious, and Duo, who was interrupted, looked at Seal in confusion. Duo, can I ask, is this the element you're talking about? Seal was a little excited, closed his eyes and calmed down for a long time before entering the meditation state he studied himself. Seal began to perceive his own magic, and used his magic to guide the elements around him. After a while, 4 small spots of light the size of sesame seeds began to emerge, slowly flying up and down around the char, as if the char were their stars, slowly turning bigger and bigger, and finally as big as a baby. The fist stopped the momentum. Char opened his eyes, looked at the 4 elemental light balls surrounding him with a mysterious trajectory and smiled, looking at Duo and asked seriously, Duo, the elements you are talking about, are these balls of light? At this time, Duo was already frightened. He didn't know what happened to Seal. The light ball around him made him feel very deep. Duo had no way of determining what Seal was talking about. The poor brain was completely dead. Mr. Charles, I can be sure that you are surrounded by magical elements. It's amazing. No wonder Mr. Sorting Hat said you were the son of the elements. An old voice came from the depths of the kitchen. The appearance of this voice made the kitchen quiet, and no elf dared to speak, so they silently put down their work and bowed slightly towards the depths of the kitchen. Seal didn't know what to do at this time. Looking at the actions of the elves, Seal also bowed shallowly after being overwhelmed. Obviously, the owner of the voice has a very high status in this kitchen. And he knows a lot more than anyone else around him. Duo, bring him here, I haven't seen anyone for a long time. The old voice continued, looking tired. Okay, right now, Duo replied respectfully, and began to lead the way for Seal. The elves on the road consciously separated, making way for Seal and Duo. Finally reaching the depths of the kitchen, Seal was surprised to find that there was a small entrance hall. Duo led Seal in. The door was very small. Fortunately, Seal was only 11 years old, so Seal bent down and squeezed in. As soon as he entered the door, Seal was stunned. Whether in the movies of his previous life or in the current world, Seal had never seen such an old house elf. The long beard almost fell to the ground, the two long ears were drooping, the original big eyes were already cloudy, and because of being too old, this house elf was obviously no longer able to move on his own. "This is our ancestor, this is the new year of Hogwarts, Shire," Duo introduced respectfully. Seal looked surprised and didn't know how to react, so he could only reply hello dryly. The old elf didn't seem to care about Seal's reaction. "Hello, young boy, you may call me Helga," said the old house elf to Seal. At this point, Shire's jaw was about to fall, and Hufflepuff's full name was Helga Hufflepuff. The old elf seemed to know what Seal was thinking, and smiled to explain to Seal, "Yes, it was Helga, the kind Lady Hufflepuff who brought my ancestors into Hogwarts. We are grateful to her. I am always grateful to her. So we in this group decided to name Helga as the elder of the clan, and it will be passed down from generation to generation, and I am already the 5th generation." Quote. Seal was still surprised at this time. After all, whether Helga or the kitchen appeared in the movie, everything was unknown, and this elder Helga was not mentioned in the original book. "Don't be so surprised, boy, I've lived a long time and served the castle for 200 years. I've seen many geniuses, many of them have achieved great things, but without exception, they are not as good as you." Helga looked at Seal with cloudy eyes, but it was as if he saw through Seal, which made Seal feel very uncomfortable. "Mr. Seal, can I ask you to show the elements you have mastered?" Helga looked at Seal excitedly, her tone full of pleading. Seal nodded, closed his eyes and began to guide the elements around. Helga seemed even more excited when the 4 elements began to surround the char. Yes, I can feel the same breath as the big 4, great. Hufflepuff finally has his heir, great. Old Helga was very excited, even started to laugh. Toto. It called Toto aloud. "I'm here, ancestor." Duo appeared beside Helga in response. Go, get that book, the book that Hufflepuff left us. The owner it was waiting for has appeared. The task that Hufflepuff left us is about to be completed, go. Ergia was very excited. Duo disappeared in an instant, and when he came back with a tome with a thick leather cover, which seemed to have a history. The book is tied with a wide belt, and there is a copper buckle like a hill on the belt buckle, which locks the book tightly. Duo put the book on the ground in front of Seal, and withdrew respectfully. On the contrary, Helga was very excited and looked at Seal. "Mr. Seal, can you control the elements around you? And if so, can you let him enter the copper element with the earthy yellow element representing the earth?" In the lock. Charles was a little confused, but complied. The moment the element entered the lock, a pure white place appeared in Seal's consciousness as if being pulled by something. A kind old woman sat in a rocking chair and looked at Charles kindly. Seal was very vigilant and wanted to pull out his wand, but found that he had nothing on his body except his clothes, and even the dagger he carried in the morning disappeared, which made Seal look a little nervous. "Don't be nervous, child, the elves must have successfully completed the task I left for them when you got here. Let me see that you belong to that college." The kind old woman laughed when she looked at Seal's nervousness. "Gryffindor. My God, it's a little unbelievable that that rude man has such a vigilant student." The old woman sighed. Hearing this, Seal also basically understood who this kind-looking old woman was in front of her. Helga Hufflepuff. Seal was uncertain. The old woman nodded happily. Chapter 23 The Rhythm of the Earth. Earth Element. Seal is now in a completely confused state, even though Seal is very worried that everything in front of him is magic such as Horcrux. At this time, Seal begins to regret listening to other people's words casually. "Don't worry about the child, it's not a Horcrux or something, and I'm not out of date with a memory from a long time ago. Don't worry about the child, you're here because of your talent." Ms. Hufflepuff laughed. He said. Seal was still surprised, because what he was thinking was answered by the other side before he could say it. Ha, don't be so surprised, child, I don't have the ability to use magic. I'm just a simple memory, although there is no magic, but the child forgives me. Hufflepuff saw Ciel's appearance and almost laughed. The chair fell off. After a long delay, she finally said again, I don't have the power to use magic, but I have the memory of my life. Child, everything you want to say is written on your face. If you have time to learn occlumency, at least not so that an old man can see from experience what you are thinking. Ciel looked at the old woman in front of him with a black line, which was different from the great Hufflepuff he imagined. Okay boy, don't look at me with that expression. I just haven't seen the Hogwarts children for too long. I'm a little excited. Since you can come to this place, it means that you must have the gift of the earth. In other words, you must have mastered the earth element, which is great, child. Hufflepuff finally returned to the kind and old woman she had been in the beginning, and then began to tell after making a wooden rattan chair for Shire. Stand up. Me and Ravenclaw, Gryffindor and Slytherin, we each have mastered an element. I was called the goddess of the earth when I was young. The earth element is an omnipotent element, child. Since you can come in, it proves that you must have felt the existence of the element initially, but unfortunately, you did not go further. Hufflepuff looked at Ciel and slowly said what he saw. Ciel was also confused. These things were not mentioned in the book that Ciel read, and this was also the question that Ciel asked. Don't be surprised, child. In ancient times before me, wizards were just the beginning of the supernatural, and the element was the future of the supernatural. Although you mastered the element of earth, you didn't understand it, and I left this book in the hope of my life there can be an inheritance of magic, and it also guides the rhythm of the earth for the elementalists. But it is a pity that for thousands of years, there have been fewer and fewer elementalists. Hufflepuff shook his head regretfully. Hufflepuff's words made Ciel ecstatic. With the power, he can better protect his family and friends. At least the troll can lie down in peace. Hufflepuff looked at Shire's excited look and smiled. Son, don't be too happy, I can only help you start the rhythm. As for the magic after that, you can only learn slowly by yourself, but I hope you don't use my magic to threaten Hogwarts. Can you do it? Hufflepuff asked Ciel seriously. I can do it, ma'am, I swear. I will use magic to protect the things, and people I love. Hogwarts included. Ciel answered very seriously. His eyes were very firm, and Ciel's pursuit of power is just hope I can protect everyone when Voldemort returns, and there is no other idea. It's a great answer, child. Stick to your principles and bottom line. I believe your achievements will not be weaker than mine. Come here, child, give me your hand. Hufflepuff showed a heartfelt smile, very kind look at Charles. Ciel obediently handed his hand to the old woman in front of him. The moment Ciel's hand was held, Ciel seemed to be in an endless ocean of yellow earth elements, and seemed to appear 10,000 meters underground, surrounded by endless waves. The squeezing, crushing and friction of Ciel even felt that the ground beneath his feet began to flow slowly into magma, and began to devour Ciel. Charles is also getting more and more painful. Child, calm down. The earth is the father of all things, giving life to the world, giving people food. When you are angry but destroying the world, when you are peaceful, loving the world, calm down, child, open your soul, feel slowly the existence of the earth, don't reject it. Hufflepuff's voice sounded in Ciel's ears. Ciel tried hard to recall Hufflepuff's words, and slowly let go of everything and began to accept everything that happened to him. Slowly he felt less painful, and the yellow scene around him slowly disappeared. Surprised to find that he was actually floating in the air, a bare earth ball appeared in front of Ciel, slowly spinning. Ciel looked carefully. There were volcanoes, grasslands, and forests on it, like a place without sea. Earth. Shire King was a little fascinated. He touched the earth ball lightly, but he knew that the earth ball instantly turned into a stream of light and rushed into Shire's body. Shire did not resist, but accepted this no. On the earth of water, Shire slowly felt a different sound, like a heartbeat, a very loud heartbeat, slowly pounding and pounding again. At this time, Charles slowly recovered. Hufflepuff was still in front of him, slowly starting to fade, as if about to disappear. Charles suddenly felt a little sad, and he didn't want this old woman who taught him magic to disappear like this. You feel, child, the heartbeat of the earth. You are recognized by the earth. Study slowly, don't rush for quick success, child. Hufflepuff still looked at Seal kindly. Also, don't be sad for me, I've been dead for over 1,000 years, and in front of you is just a memory to guide beginners. Make good use of my knowledge, and hopefully one day it can help you get through this. After Hufflepuff finished speaking, he dissipated, and Seal bowed solemnly to the place where she dissipated. Miss Hufflepuff, like her house, was upright, kind, tenacious and respectable. Opening his eyes again, Seal had returned to the Hogwarts kitchen. These encounters left Seal a little torn apart. You succeeded, right? The old elf Helga asked cautiously. Yes, I succeeded, and I saw Miss Hufflepuff. Seal replied calmly, looking at the elf in front of him. Until now, he could feel the rhythm of the ground under his feet, which made Seal couldn't help but be right. Hufflepuff was grateful. It's great, we have lived up to the old master's entrustment, even if it's 1,000, we have fulfilled the old master's orders. The old elf Helga was very excited and called in Duoduo, and told all the elves in the kitchen the news. The kitchen suddenly turned into a sea of cheers, and the elves began to celebrate. Seal looked at the watch in his hand. It was already night, and Seal did not disturb the elves' celebration, silently bid farewell to the old elf Helga, picked up the book and packed meals for Hermione quietly. Exit the kitchen. In the principal's room on the 8th floor of the castle, feeling the slight earthquake that just ended, the Sorting Hat suddenly opened its mouth wide. Dumbledore. I said it. He will definitely succeed. How about it? Dumbledore smiled happily, grabbed the pile of cockroaches on the table and threw one in his mouth. I never doubted, gentlemen and ladies. Chapter 24-Halloween. Since obtaining Hufflepuff's Earth Elemental Magic book, combined with the practice in the Room of Requirement, Ciel's attack power has been steadily improving. Although Hermione was suspicious because of the frequent disappearance, the smile reappeared on Ciel's face. Hermione just let it go. Finally, under the frantic practice of Ciel, Halloween came. This morning is a spell class with Hufflepuff. The professor's wand is the simplest floating spell. Ciel said that I've been interested in this for a long time, and I might as well go see Hufflepuff when I have time. What a strange magic book. But under the eyes of Hermione's ability to kill people, he still put away the book honestly, picked up the textbook and obediently followed Hermione to Professor Flitwick's spell class. Following Hermione's footsteps closely, Ciel began to feel uninterested after gaining some points in the theoretical part of the spells class. In addition to practicing elemental magic last night, Ciel was very tired from idle. Elemental magic is really good everywhere, with great power and many changes, but the only problem is that it consumes too much mana. According to the current magic power of Ciel, the magic with high attack power in a large area can be fired at most 5 times in a row. You have to take a break, and at the limit, it will only output 6 shots of great power. Frequent practice makes Ciel always dizzy. Fortunately, after Ciel communicates the elements with magic, especially after feeling the rhythm of the earth element, Ciel's spellcasting is slowly becoming faster, and at the same time, the magic power also began to grow slowly, and Ciel could feel that by spelling the magic power alone, Ciel would not push any students below the 5th grade. The dazed Ciel waved his wand and let the feather float without even chanting the spell. After winning 5 points for Gryffindor, Ciel was lying on the table in a daze. Fell asleep. Hermione next to him could see what Ciel was busy with recently, and also saw that Ciel was tired, so she didn't say much, and it would be better to let Ciel take a rest. When Charles woke up, Professor Flitwick was standing in front of him. Charles, I know you're very good, but you should pay attention to rest. Don't practice too many spells. You are still growing, you should pay attention to the combination of work and rest. The old professor was very worried about Charles' body. He had seen too much many geniuses have damaged their bodies by overspending their magic. Thank you, Professor, I will pay attention. Charles said apologetically to the professor. After all, he fell asleep in his class and was caught as a typical example. Charles was a little embarrassed. It's okay, by the way, Ciel, this is for you. It will help you recover your magic power. Don't work so hard, after all, you are still a first year. Professor Flitwick took out a bottle of potion and motioned for Seal to drink it. As the top student in the first grade, to be honest, Professor Flitwick likes this young child very much. If it wasn't for the first grader, Professor Flitwick would definitely invite him to the spell club he founded. Thank you, Professor. Seal suffocated the strange-smelling potion and felt his body warm. He looked around and found that his classmates were gone, and Seal seemed a little anxious. Professor, I'll go first, thank you for the potion. Seal hurriedly packed his schoolbag and walked out, not forgetting to thank the professor. He had a hunch that Hermione was definitely made to cry by Ron, and it would definitely have something to do with him, otherwise Hermione would never leave her alone. With Flitwick's sigh of being young, Seal hurried out of the classroom, and after running to the hall to see Hermione not on the table, Ron looked at him with a little dodge. Seal felt that the Nameless became angry, looked at Ron fiercely, did not speak, grabbed some food on the table, turned and walked away, completely ignoring Ron's head that was about to be buried in his chest. Surprisingly, Charles and Hermione skipped class all afternoon. Seal knew that Hermione must be hiding in the women's toilet and crying. After looking for many women's toilets in the school, he finally met Sister Angelina, who had just come out of a toilet on the first floor. After Hermione was inside, ignoring senior sister's teasing eyes, Seal pushed open the door and went in. Hermione was in the last compartment, and she could hear her crying sadly, and Seal knocked on the door carefully. The knock on the door startled Hermione. "There's someone here," Hermione replied intermittently, sobbing from time to time. "I know, is it my know-it-all Miss Mautuanzi?" Charles tried to keep his tone light-hearted. "Charles, oh my God, this is the women's room. How did you get in?" Hermione was very surprised. She didn't expect Charles to come to her. "Open the door, I know you're inside, Hermione, is there anything I can't tell your naughty Mr. Naughty?" Charles continued to comfort Hermione. "No, I don't want you to see me now." Hermione wiped the tears from her face hard. She didn't want Seal to see the snot bubbles from her crying at all. With a thud, the door to the toilet cubicle shook, and then a head appeared on the door. It was Seal. "Open the door, little Hermione, this is my first time in the women's bathroom, won't you show me around?" Charles joked with a funny expression. This visit directly made Hermione laugh. "I didn't know you still had such a hobby, Seal, visiting the women's restroom, you didn't think so. Go down and I'll open the door." After Hermione finally opened the door, Seal looked at Hermione's crying red eyes and felt a little distressed. Then he took out the big drumstick that he brought from the hall at noon. "I guess you must be hungry. I've been looking for all afternoon. God knows how many toilets at Hogwarts. Hermione, you won't explain it to me tomorrow. It is estimated that I will be the first pervert who listens at the door of all the girls' toilets in the first year." Seal teased himself helplessly. The teasing finally made Hermione less sad. Looking at the chicken legs in Sha'ur's hand, she didn't care what the environment was. She grabbed it and ate it. She was really starving. Seeing that Hermione finally started to eat, Seal pulled Hermione and sat on the windowsill of the toilet, looking at Hermione. "Okay, now can you tell me who made you angry? I swear I will definitely put that I don't even know if people beat him. If he does, I'll beat him again." Seal, on the other hand, obviously didn't ask whether he was right or wrong, which made Hermione feel much better. But Hermione didn't want to tell Seal. She knew Seal, and Seal would definitely beat him. Seal looked at the hesitant Hermione, and sighed. "Is that Ron?" Seal asked casually, looking at Hermione's expression of "how do you know?" Seal knew that his guess was right. "Looks like I guessed right. I guess, it's definitely because you did well in the spell class. That idiot was jealous of you speaking ill of you behind your back, and you heard it. If nothing else, take me with you, or it's impossible to leave without calling me." The more Seal said, the more surprised Hermione became, because Seal was absolutely right. "Don't worry Hermione, I'll definitely punch him," Seal promised. Before Hermione warned Shire not to fight, the two of them smelled a stench, as if the smell of stinky shoes that had not been washed in 10,000 years was mixed with the smell of a ditch. Minho was behind him. "Monster, here we come." Chapter 25-Troll. Seal guarded Hermione carefully, leaning against the wall and slowly approaching the door. Seal left the chicken legs that Hermione hadn't eaten on the balcony opposite the door, hoping that the troll would be attracted by the chicken legs. In fact, when the troll bent over and came in, he was indeed attracted by the chicken legs, completely ignoring the two little ones, Seal and Hermione, looking at the troll as tall as a hill. Not to mention Hermione, even Seal was also turning his calf straight. Don't look at how powerful Seal looks with his back against Hufflepuff's earth element magic, but Seal, who has never practiced it, is also insecure. If you want to talk about ordinary fights, Seal isn't afraid. To a troll like Roshan, Seal is also cowardly. The visual impact is too great, not to mention the wonderful smell. If Seal is not nervous, it is estimated that smelling this smell will make him vomit until he can't walk. Just as the two of them walked to the door full of anticipation, they just touched the handle, and before they had time to turn it, they heard a click and the door was locked. Seal was so angry, the sound of the lock successfully attracted the troll who had just finished filling his teeth. The troll turned to see Shire and Hermione standing at the door, turned and came with a stick. "Ron, your ancestors are stubborn," Seal roared. He vowed to beat Ron when he saw him, and quickly drew his wand, facing the troll, Giant's Grip. The majestic earth element was instantly mobilized by Seal's magic power. I saw a giant hand made of earth and stones slowly bulging along the way of the troll. When the troll wondered what it was, he held it. The troll began to struggle violently. The words were divided. When Harry Ron was successfully locking the door and thanked that he had solved a big problem for the school. I heard Seal's roar of anger coming from inside, and then Harry Ron looked at each other and hurriedly started to turn the key to open the door. When they got to the ground, the two of them bent over to pick them up at the same time. Their heads touched again, and with the help of the interaction force, they successfully sat on both sides of the door. Harry was worried that Seal and Hermione comforted and struggled to get up and wanted to pick up the keys. As soon as they stood up, they heard a roar, broken. The door flew out as if it had been blown open by dynamite. Min rushed out of it. Glancing at the two people who were a little dazed, Shire Hermione dragged the other and hurried away. Not long after he ran out, he heard the roar of a lifetime from the toilet. The troll rushed out of the toilet like a mad elephant, and he was smashed into pieces wherever he went, showing no mercy. The troll who rushed to the corridor looked around and immediately found 4 little people running for their lives in the corridor. The troll's small brain capacity made him just want to tear up the little people in front of him. So he roared and launched a savage charge at the 4 of them, rushing towards the 4 of them without looking back. The 4 of them, especially Ron and Hermione, were terrified. The 4 of them ran for their lives, and finally when the troll was about to hit them, there was a right angle bend at the end of the corridor, and the 4 of them braked and drifted, then turned into a fork in the road and continued to run. Seal looked at the dizzy troll that hit the wall, and turned around and shot the Giant's Grip again. The troll was held by the giant hand again, which completely angered him, dropped the stick, and broke free from the giant hand, and began to launch a savage charge against the 4. At this time, even Harry was so frightened that his soul almost floated out. The 4 of them ran desperately. With the strong physique he had trained for a long time, Seal kept pulling Hermione. Although it doesn't have much effect, it can be stopped anyway. Just as the troll lost his mind and continued to accelerate, getting faster and faster, and seeing that he was not far away from the 4 of them, Seal suddenly turned around and shot the Giant's Grip on the troll again. This time, Seal did not change his hand, but changed into a small hand, a very hard little hand composed of granite. He grabbed one of the troll's feet. One of the troll's feet was pulled, and the fast-moving troll lost his balance immediately. Seal was not polite. He calculated the location where the troll fell and directly attacked with a ground stab. Under the huge inertia, there was only a sound like a balloon being punctured, and the troll was pierced by dozens of ground thorns, and the dead could no longer die. At this time, Seal was afraid for a while, and thanks to the troll finally losing his mind, he stretched out his hand to grab the 4 of them when he was dying, but he didn't weigh the ground. Otherwise, Seal estimated that there would be a bloodbath today. When the four of them saw that the troll was dead, they all sat down on the ground immediately and began to gasp for breath. The joy of the rest of their lives filled their hearts. But before Harry and Ron were too happy, a fist kissed their cheeks affectionately. Seal looked at them angrily. Is that the doorknob of the lock? You two killed 1,000 knives just now. Seal's eyes seemed to eat people. Ron also became angry at this time, and he argued loudly to save Seal and Hermione. He didn't say it was okay. When he said that, Seal immediately jumped up and twisted with Ron. Harry wanted to go forward and persuade him. They were also pulled into the battle group by the two of them, and the three of them scuffled together, but they didn't hit hard. But Ron was taken care of by Charles, and he punched several times in the face. Hermione stood by and didn't know what to do, neither helping, nor not helping. Finally, it seemed that the three of them were tired from fighting, and at the same time they all lay on the ground gasping for breath. Just as Hermione was about to step forward, she heard fragmented footsteps in the distance, and Professor McGonagall trotted over with him. God, how dare you! Looking at the corpse of the troll in front of him, Professor McGonagall's lips began to tremble. Snape, who was standing behind Professor McGonagall, looked at Harry without saying a word, while Professor Flitwick looked at the thorn that pierced through the troll with admiration. Only Professor Quirrell, as if truly frightened, crouched in the corner and began to cry softly. Please don't do that, Professor McGonagall. They're here for me. I've got trolls. I've seen them in books. I thought I could deal with them. If it wasn't for Shire to find out my thoughts were holding me back, Holly and Ron finally came to save me, maybe I died. Hermione looked at Professor McGonagall cautiously. This was the first time she had lied to a teacher in her life. Hermione looked very nervous. Professor McGonagall looked at Hermione and sighed for a while, but did not expose her. Silly girl, you're just a freshman in the first year. How can you deal with a troll like a hill? And 5 points will be deducted from Gryffindor for your reckless behavior. Now you should go back to your lounge. Hermione was a little down, and was about to help Seal to go back. Professor McGonagall stopped them again. You can kill trolls in your first year. Shire, you won 10 points for Gryffindor. Harry, Ron, you care about friends, and you each won 5 points for Gryffindor. If you're not hurt, now, go back to the lounge. Under Professor McGonagall's stern gaze, Hermione helped Seal, who had lost his strength, Harry, who had bruises on the corners of his mouth, and Ron, who had dark circles, helped each other and left. After they walked away, Snape looked at Quirrell in the corner, and in front of Professor McGonagall and Professor Flitwick, he stabbed the troll with a fiery flame, and satirized Quirrell before leaving. Not even a first-year student. Professor McGonagall and Professor Flitwick watched all this without speaking. Snape turned and left, like a big bat, and he had to help Seal deal with the traces left by 2 earth elemental magics, in case the damn Quirrell saw the problem. Chapter 26-Christmas and Plans. Since the last troll incident, Ron and Harry have formally apologized to Hermione and Shire, especially for locking them in the toilet. Ron and Harry are deeply sorry. After seeing that Hermione didn't seem to care, Seal also chose to forgive and let the matter pass. Seal didn't have much to lose anyway. Of course, after that day, under Ciel's soft and hard bubbles, Seal he went to the prefect's bathroom in an open and honest way. That guy stayed there for an entire afternoon, and after taking a bath, Seal finally felt that the stench of that day had been cleaned up. At the same time, the little book in Hermione's heart also wrote down Shire's hobby of taking a bath. Of course, after tasting the sweetness of elemental magic, Seal began to pay attention to the test of the Sorting Hat. Perhaps under the circumstances of his own pondering, Seal couldn't do the same thing as Dumbledore with a swing of a stick, but after the last battle with the troll, Seal clearly discovered elemental magic. The benefits of being flexible. That's right. Flexibility, just like the giant's grip. Combined with transfiguration, Seal can customize the size, hardness, and even the strength of the grip direction. All this is just a thought of Seal. This is definitely a great feature. To give a very simple example, when you are walking in the dark, other people's fluorescent flicker is a small light like a light bulb, and one of your fluorescent flicker directly becomes an adjustable focus. The flashlight is far more practical than other magics. The thing that makes Seal difficult to understand is such a convenient elemental magic, and there are not many people who practice it now. Combining the blind guess of the original book by Shah, it is estimated that Lao Deng and his old lover have some foundation, and it is estimated that the poor two-hole socket man has never even touched it. Based on the above theory, Seal, who has tasted the sweetness, is looking forward to what elements the sorting hat will give him. As the hat of Gryffindor once, Seal estimates that there is a high probability that it is the magic of the fire element. In order to deal with the matter of facing Voldemort in the end, Seal began to plan. To be honest, Seal also had a headache. After all, even if he knew that the old bee liked to use candy as a password. But there are so many candies in the magic world, so Seal can't test them one by one. Moreover, Seal remembered very clearly that in the entire Philosopher's Stone plot, when Dumbledore was sure that he would no longer be in the headmaster's office, only when Harry was looking at his sunglasses, and when he was suspected of breaking through. He was definitely going to break through the barrier, even if he didn't face the wandering spirit in the end. He had to protect Hermione's safety, and even the trip to the Forbidden Forest, Seal estimated that he wouldn't be able to escape. So Seal made a very happy decision. He didn't go home for Christmas. Seal decided to take advantage of Old Deng to educate Harry. Of course, Charles was most fortunate that Mrs. William was a muggle and wouldn't call him home with a shouting letter or the like. After telling Hermione not to go home for Christmas, Shire, who was thinking of hanging out like this, was pulled by Hermione's ear and wrote a letter explaining the situation, and then sent it back with the school's owl. When the owl flew away and disappeared from Seal's field of vision, Seal could already predict what terrible things would happen to him during the summer vacation. These odds and ends will definitely not disturb Shire's plans. When the trio began to investigate Nick LeMay, who was struggling, Charles was also very tired from leaving early and returning late every day. To ask why Seal is so tired, of course, he contacted Magic in the morning and squatted at the door of the principal's office in the afternoon to start squatting passwords. What else could he do? Seal is not stupid, after a few days of fruitless experience. In order to increase the chance of squatting, Seal began to squat, maybe squatting passwords in the morning, contact Magic in the afternoon, or squatting in the morning. In short, in order to find order in disorder, Seal squatted 1 second before curfew every day, and sprinted 100 meters back to the dormitory in the next second, never staying for another second. Strange to say, every time Seal returned to his dorm a few minutes after the curfew started, Filch never came up to arrest him. This discovery really made Seal feel lucky among recent misfortunes. Little did he know that Seal's sneaking in the past few days was watched by an old man with a long beard and a black belly. At first, he didn't know what Seal was doing. After watching Seal's persistent long-term plan, the black-bellied old man finally understands Seal's purpose. How easy is it to make you squat to the password? So the old man personally explained that Filch should not come to the 8th floor recently. The old man just watched Seal's squatting legs go numb every day, feeling that he had tempered the character of a young man again. In the end, the effort paid off, and Seal finally borrowed Snape's light to squat to the password, and the cockroaches piled up. After hearing the password, Seal turned around and left, feeling like a fool. He might as well go back and practice Honeyduke's merchandise list, and then stand at the door of the stone statue to give him a fluent tongue to save his energy. After confirming the password, Seal's life began to be less busy. Occasionally, he visited Hagrid with the Iron Triangle as a non-staff, where to sit, and tricked Hagrid to take him to see those magical cuties, or go to the kitchen tooth offering, drop by to teach some new dishes, and pack a serving for Hermione who was far away in the library to taste. Of course, what Seal likes most is to sneak in a bath every now and then, or sit on the exclusive sofa next to the fireplace in the lounge with a magic book in his arms and watch. Charles swore there was no better place in the whole school than hot water and a fireplace on a cold day. Seal's leisurely days didn't last long. Christmas was coming. After putting Hermione on the train, Seal also began to prepare gifts for everyone. Ron. Harry said that a bag of candy can definitely pass, Hermione. The present Charles said he would give it to her when she came back. Charles has already thought about it. It is rare to go to the principal's office. Where is Fox? Make Hermione a phoenix feather quill. As for the professors in the school, Charles was not polite. He gave Professor McGonagall a set of Muggle physics textbooks. Professor Flitwick really didn't know what to do with the spells class, so Charles asked his parents to customize it. A high podium with stairs. Although Seal didn't go home, he was very happy that Seal could make new friends and parents at school, and he also helped to order it. Even Professor Snape, who hadn't said much, gave a whole set of Muggle chemistry experiment kits and a copy of the laboratory code after some thought. Hopefully, when he comes back from Christmas, Neville can memorize the rules so he doesn't blow up the cauldron. Even the elves in the school, Shire, have translated a large book of Chinese cookbooks and some small candy from the Muggle world to give them as gifts. As for Lao Dang, I still have to think about it. It must be done with thick wool socks and sugar. In the original book, he said it himself. Charles said he did what he wanted. After Seal arranged everything, the tired Seal finally crawled into the bed and went to sleep. Welcome Christmas tomorrow. Eat and drink enough for Christmas and prepare for a big ticket. Chapter 27-Christmas and the Magic Mirror. Early the next morning, Charles got up. As soon as he opened his eyes, he saw a lot of gifts beside the bed. Seal was also very happy. As an ordinary migrant worker in his previous life, he never received gifts or anything. Parents and Hermione's. Seal didn't even think that he would receive a gift like a mountain this Christmas. Seal happily started to unpack the gifts. Harry gave a wand maintenance kit. Ron had nothing but a bag of candy, and it was poor, and Seal didn't mind. After all, Ron's poor pocket money katakana middle dot katakana middle dot. There was no Hermione in the gift pile. She and Seal made an appointment to wait for her to return and exchange gifts with the two of them. Seal was looking forward to this. There are many other people, some people don't even know Shire, most of them are candy, and a few are some prank props and the like. What surprised Seal the most was that Lao Deng actually sent a small bottle of Phoenix's tears, which really surprised Seal. This thing is a real good thing. As long as there is still a breath, it can basically be rescued. Charles carefully found a rope to hang the small bottle around his neck, a lifesaver. After that, Seal followed the trend and started to play. After all, during the rare holiday, Seal wouldn't just hold the book in such a silly way. Although it is a big stream, there are really not many people. After all, Christmas in the Western world is basically equivalent to the spring festival of our celestial dynasty. Few people do not go home, and there are only dozens of people in the 4 colleges together. Seal and Gemini had the most fun. When it comes to snowball fights, Seal was an authentic northern man in his previous life, but he had never been counseled, let alone in the magical world. After Seal used the most basic transfiguration combined with the levitation spell, and stunned the snowball with the effect of a machine gun fire, even the twins, who were a few years older than Seal, couldn't stand the Seal's shooting. They raised their hands and surrendered, and then began to get close to Seal, trying to get this highly efficient snowball machine gun. Seal was also happy to hand it over to them. After a while of private transactions, the twins and Seal smiled contentedly. Of course, poor Quirrell and the Dark Lord couldn't laugh anymore. The twins learned this snowball machine gun, and the most unfortunate thing is the Dark Lord with a nose. It turned out that a snowball hit the back of Quirrell's head. One for the front face and one for the back of the head. Charles felt that this was definitely the Dark Lord's most embarrassing time. If it wasn't for Professor McGonagall's quick arrival, the twins would definitely have turned Quirrell's head into a big snowball. The suffocated Dark Lord. Seal felt that this matter could be used to mock the noseless Dark Lord for the rest of his life. Wait, no nose. Holy crap, didn't he knock his nose off this time? Seal's arrangement was full of malicious intent. Seal, who had plans tonight, didn't play for too long. Taking advantage of no one at school, Seal decided to secretly take a comfortable bath again in the afternoon, and took a good nap. Needless to say, Seal was planning to follow Harry to see the legendary magic mirror tonight. Of course, don't shoot, work secretly, and Seal is also curious about what he wants to do most in his life. So when the Charles Weasley family and Harry came to the Christmas dinner alone after recharging their energy for the afternoon, Charles was also stunned by the dinner. This guy stewed pork ribs with kidney beans, stewed big fish in an iron pot, and there is a large table of Chinese food such as boiled meat slices. If Seal did not see the turkey on the table and the smiling bearded old man behind the big round table, Seal would definitely think that he had crossed again, and he had crossed to another table. At the banquet of the Celestial Dynasty, Dumbledore greeted them with a smile and greeted them to sit down, and kindly said that because of the small number of people, there was no need for them to sit in separate colleges. It would be great for the 4 colleges to have a reunion dinner together. And I also thanked Shire emphatically, and said that many of the dishes here are the recipes provided by Shire. If nothing else, at least the food of the Celestial Dynasty is definitely better than that of Britain in the dark cooking class. The little wizards eat oily mouths, and Charles is not polite. Looking dull, Ron soaked the rice in the red oil soup that boiled the meat slices directly. At the end of this meal, everyone was holding their stomachs, including a few professors. Those who have been plagued by British food all year round have eaten these strange and delicious things, so Lao Deng is better. After all, he is well informed and maybe just like the cuisine of the Celestial Dynasty. As for the turkey on the table, in addition to being packaged as a late-night snack, it basically lost the possibility of drying it on the spot. Finally, after a while, the little wizards went to bed and rested, and Charles hugged Hufflepuff's magic book, and sat by the fire, waiting for Harry to go out to find the magic mirror. Finally, after hearing the inexplicable opening of the door to the lounge guarded by the fat woman, Seal quickly put down the book in his hand, turned it into a book size with a wave of his hand, put it in his pocket and quickly followed Harry's footsteps out. Shrinking books is best for Shire and Hermione. After exiting the door of the lounge, Seal waited for a while. After all, Harry was wearing an invisibility cloak, and it was impossible for Seal to see. When Harry got a little further away, Seal took out his wand and pointed at his own temple, geomotion perception. A little trick in the Hufflepuff magic book: you can follow the footsteps of the designated person to feel the distance and the unknown, and Seal chose Harry. Hanging far behind Harry for a long time, he avoided several inspections by Mrs. Loris, and finally saw the magic mirror, a tall and gorgeous mirror, watching Harry sitting in front of the mirror and smiling. He was very happy, and Charles was also inexplicably sad. After all, he's just an 11-year-old stinky boy without his parents. Forget it, treat him better in the future, Seal muttered to himself with some distress. Seal looked at it for a while and then slipped away. After all, the magic mirror wouldn't go away, and Seal went back to the bedroom first. He didn't have an invisibility cloak. The next morning, Seal got up early and hurriedly slipped into the room from last night. When he finally stood in front of the mirror, the image that appeared in the mirror made the corner of Seal's mouth twitch. I'm sure I'm a salted fish when I put it together. Looking at himself in the mirror, with 8-pack abs, lying on a soft bed, drinking Coke and eating chicken wings with a pad in his hand, with himself and Hermione hanging behind him, wedding photos, Seal's desire to complain is extremely strong. The self who grew up in the mirror shook his head, and then began to show Seal a look at his mansion, as if he was satisfied with everything, and posted photos of his travels. Understood, rich, salted fish who can travel around the world. Shire nodded happily when he saw himself in the mirror. The corners of Seal's mouth twitched, but after thinking about it carefully, this life is really delicious, so he patted the mirror, as if to cheer himself up. Don't worry, brother, think carefully about this life is absolutely delicious. Hermione is the Minister of Magic. I just feel at ease and be a rich salted fish, that's great. After saying that, he left happily. Dumbledore, who stayed quietly behind Seal and maintained a state of invisibility, was also very speechless at this time. He originally wanted to see how the little wizard he was optimistic about, but old Deng, who knew the truth, was a little speechless. Handing over to a salted fish in the future. If Old Deng hadn't been confident that Seal didn't find out about him, he would really think that Seal was lying to him. Forget it, take your time. Dumbledore shook his head, not thinking too much. At least this child has a very kind heart, isn't it? As if to find a reason for himself, Dumbledore also smiled faintly, then glanced in the mirror, and strode out of the room. Chapter 28 _ The plan begins. Big ticket. After Seal went back, for the rest of Christmas, Seal returned to his original routine, reading books, practicing Hufflepuff's elemental magic, and occasionally going to the kitchen to fight teeth. Silently waiting for the opportunity, in the following days, after Seal saw Harry sneaking out and back with Ron, Seal felt that the time was ripe. Finally, in the last few days of Christmas, Seal saw Harry's cloak open the lounge door again. Seal jumped up immediately, and after packing up his equipment, Seal also started his big adventure plan this semester. After carefully avoiding the patrolling Filch and his cat, Seal quietly came to the door of the principal's room. After opening the maximum range of perception and confirming that there were no footsteps in the principal's room, Seal stood there. In front of the statue. Cockroach pile. Seal said the password. The stone statue glanced at Seal silently, and then after thinking carefully, he moved away silently, leaking out the spiral staircase behind him. Seal was not polite, and hurried in, went up the stairs, and came to the gate of the principal's office. Seal swore that he had never been so nervous before. After putting his ear to the door and listening carefully, after confirming that there was no sound of Old Deng snoring, Seal carefully opened the door of the principal's room. The principal's room still looked at the original description. The walls were covered with portraits of the former principals, and the shelves beside the wall were full of strange silverware, some of which were constantly spinning, and some were scattered outside. In the fog, next to the desk is the headmaster's pensieve, and the shelves next to the pensieve are full of memories collected by Dumbledore. The large desk was full of documents and candies. Phoenix Fox was sleeping on the shelf of the desk, with his head buried in his wings. The sorting hat was quietly placed on the top of the shelf. Seal was still very nervous. Whether it was in the past or this life, it was the first time that Seal had done such an illegal act of stealing. Be careful, for fear of problems. In fact, it's no wonder that Seal was nervous. In the original book, Dumbledore was teaching Harry in front of the magic mirror, and he didn't write the exact date. Seal just knew that it was during the Christmas holidays and after Ron. Now that Seal is bold enough to go to the principal's office, in fact, it is completely a stroke of luck. Fortunately, Seal's luck is good. In the last few days of Christmas, Dumbledore is indeed not in the office today. Seal cautiously slipped into the principal's room and touched the mask on his face, for fear of being recognized by others, especially the portrait on the wall. He glanced furtively at the portrait on the wall. Shelton was relieved at the time. The portraits on the wall were basically sleeping with his eyes closed, and he didn't know whether he was really sleeping or pretending to be sleeping. After seeing the sorting hat, Seal took out his wand, silently cast a floating spell, took the hat off and put it in his arms. The sorting hat also cooperated without making a sound. He was silently put in his arms by Seal. Seal, who had completed the task, suddenly felt less nervous. After looking around at the principal's office he had never been to, Seal decided to take another look and give him a big vote. So Seal looked left and right, and first gave up the books on the shelf. Seal didn't know what books Old Deng liked to collect. This thing was too dangerous, and Seal didn't have time to watch them one by one. It's a book of black magic or something, and if Lao Deng misunderstands it, then it will be easy for Seal to drop out of school. After some hesitation, only the pensieve and Phoenix Fox were able to enter the eye of the char. Seal came to the pensieve and took a closer look. This thing is really good looking. Not to mention other things, he just bought this thing. Seal felt that his property could definitely fill a small vault. Fortunately, Seal is not short of money, and Seal doesn't need the pensieve, so he can't use the magic of Old Deng's wand to draw a memory with one finger. Thinking of this, Seal stared at the Phoenix Fox on the table. Today, after experiencing the rebirth of Nirvana who helped Seal make a wand, Seal is now at a young and strong age, and it is very beautiful. Feeling the unfamiliar aura, he kept staring at it. Although there was no malice, Fox was still awakened, tilted his head and glanced at Seal. Fox did not dislike the aura of this little boy, and even had a faint feeling of closeness. Especially after seeing the wand in Seal's hand, Fox turned his head and planned to go back to sleep. This child, Fox, was absolutely assured that he also knew this wand. For Seal, the natural elemental mage, the son of the element in the Sorting Hat, Fox has 100 hearts. When Seal saw Fox awakened and looked at him, Seal was terrified, for fear that Fox would go to Loudang, but fortunately, Fox seemed to be relieved of Seal, so he just glanced at Seal. Seeing Fox starting to sleep again, Seal became a little bolder. He could feel that Fox didn't seem to reject him, so he quietly stepped forward and touched Fox lightly. Phoenix didn't resist either, he just felt a little irritated when Seal disturbed him to sleep. Seeing that Fox didn't resist, Seal suddenly had a bold idea, so Seal didn't hesitate. As soon as he picked up Fox, he started rushing outside. Fox was also stunned. Dumbledore explained the matter of Charles stealing the Sorting Hat, and he knew it, so he didn't care, but what the hell was stealing the Phoenix by the way? Just as Fox wanted to resist, he felt that Seal was too nervous, and the surrounding elements began to fluctuate with Seal's mood, including the fire element that Fox liked very much. After thinking about it carefully, Fox felt that he was always in Dang. It's boring to stay in Brado's office, so it's better to play with Seal. It didn't leave the school anyway, and there was a contract between it and Dumbledore. Dumbledore could call it at any time, and it didn't worry that old Dang couldn't find it. Thinking of this, Fox didn't resist, and let Seal carry himself back to the bedroom. What Charles didn't know was that when he left the principal's room, all the portraits woke up at about the same time. Then there was a huge burst of laughter. As the headmaster, Dumbledore specifically explained to the portrait his task of stealing a hat from Seal, so the portrait acquiesced to Seal's arrival, and even in order to reassure Seal, those who had a tacit understanding began to pretend to sleep, but when Seal came after picking up Fox and running all the way, the portraits were stunned. After Seal left, everyone felt very interesting, and even began to discuss the expression of the principal when he came back and found that his pet had been stolen. In fact, when Dumbledore finished educating Harry, he returned to the headmaster's room in a good mood, and looked at the Sorting Hat that was gone. Dumbledore was still very happy, at least it proved that Seal had the courage to break the rules. Wizards dare not go to him to steal things, and based on the relationship between Seal and Hermione, the Sorting Hat was originally intended to be given to Seal. This is not only to help Harry, but also to see if Seal can really get Gryffindor. Test of approval. Don't look at Dumbledore's age, but he is smart. After discovering Seal's talent, he began to plan a series of things. Of course, Seal couldn't escape his plan. But when he saw that the place that originally belonged to Fox was empty on the table, even Dumbledore, who was wise and approachable, twitched at the corners of his mouth. What about my Phoenix? I'm so big a Phoenix. Chapter 29-End of Christmas. Seal also worried for a long time after he brought back Loudang's Phoenix, for fear that Loudang would kill him and punish him. But after a whole day carefully, he found that Loudang didn't seem to have any intention of pursuing it, and Sha'ur was relieved. On the last day of Christmas, Seal seemed to understand what Loudang was thinking. It was nothing more than giving Seal more plugins, hoping that Seal could help Harry a lot. If there was no problem, Seal quickly accepted it. The two foxes, one old and one young, tacitly completed a transaction. So Seal started the responsibility of Phoenix's temporary shit-shoveling officer. Of course, Seal's roommate was still surprised. Who would have thought that when he fell asleep, he found a Phoenix squatting on the head of Seal's bed? After Seal explained that he was just after helping Principal Dumbledore to take care of his Phoenix for a few days, the little friends dispersed. Only Fox stood at the head of the bed and rolled his eyes very humanly. On the morning of the last day of Christmas, Seal didn't do anything at all, begging Fox desperately, even all kinds of dried fish, nuts and candies, hoping that Fox would give him a feather. After all, Hermione would be back in the afternoon. Charles is really in a hurry. After being annoyed by Seal for a long time, Fawkes perfunctorily gave Seal a feather, as if to escape the sea of misery. Seal was so happy that he was going to pick up Hermione for a dinner party in the evening, so Seal only had one afternoon, so he carefully brought his feathers, sorting hat, and a set of quills that he bought in advance. Seal ran all the way to the room of requirement. After half an hour, Seal finally completed the assembly of the phoenix quill. The fiery red feathers and the golden body were very Gryffindor. Seal was very happy, and carefully packaged them, ready to give to Hermione at night. It was then that Seal remembered the sorting hat that he had put aside. Seal still had an afternoon to spare, so Seal first cleaned the sorting hat, and then put the hat on his head generously. "I thought you forgot about me." The sorting hat looked very angry. After all, Seal never thought to bring it back after taking it back for a long time. What made him even more angry was that Seal even used the cleansing hat on him. New, even though it was almost 1,000 years old, he also felt that he really should have cleaned it up. I am sorry, I'm a little busy, and you've arranged all sorts of shitty missions. I've been scared for a long time to steal you back. That's the principal's office. Really, respond. I don't think you're afraid of stealing me, is it the Phoenix? The sorting hat despised Charles, showing no mercy. Is there any difference? It's all stealing anyway. Charles didn't object, he just accepted it anyway. It's time to tell me what this mission means. Is it you or the old head of Dang? Old Dang too. Ha 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 ha, an interesting name. The sorting hat shuddered with laughter after hearing Ciel's words. We thought about this task together. Dumbledore seems to know that you can see some future, so he wants to give you some protection. Just ask me, and I am also very interested in you after listening to Dumbledore's description. Especially the moment you brought me. I knew your attributes, so I didn't read it at all, let you choose your own college. The sorting hat explained proudly. Well, I know that you are a guarantee, which means that neither you nor Dang have seen my memory. And the son of the element you said, what is it? I can feel it. Elemental, but it's not like being a son of a man. After hearing what the sorting hat said, Seal knew immediately that he must have been tricking old Dang to be Harry's bodyguard. But it's okay to be wrong, Hermione is here. Sha'ur was also very helpless. From the initial coincidence, to the intentional separation later, and now having to get close, Sha'ur stepped into Lao Dang's plan step by step. Oh, you actually know that I am the security, it seems that you do know the future. The sorting hat looked surprised. How about the future fun? It's not fun at all, but the Muggle world is fun. Don't change the subject, just answer me. Seal was a little impatient. Okay, well, Dumbledore and I have never seen your memory, and Dumbledore and I don't want to know about future memories. If something happens, Dumbledore believes that you can reverse it. After all, according to your personality, we'll never let your relatives and friends around you receive a little danger. This is what Dumbledore will know at first sight when he sees you. The sorting hat answered patiently. At this time, Seal was surprised. Isn't it? I just called Lao Dang, can he think so much? Don't underestimate anyone, little Seal. Dumbledore doesn't want to interfere too much in the future. He believes in you, but I don't want to watch it at all. If the future is known, it's not equivalent to the TV drama being spoiled. I'm afraid I'll be bored. The sorting hat answered honestly. Well, I hope Lao Dang will take a look, so I can save a lot of trouble. It is better to call him directly, really. Then what is the son of the element? Seal was a little irritable, scratching his head, and then asked. This is not right for Seal. The future is a test for you, not for Dumbledore. You can use anyone's help, but you must not ask someone to replace you. This is very important. The sorting hat corrected Seal very seriously. As for the children of the elements, I started it. You are born with the ability to drive the 4 elements plus a natural element. This is very important. Even the founders can't do such a thing. The sorting hat was very happy that Shire thought of this question. Wait, what are the natural elements? I can see the 4 elements. I don't know what the natural elements are. Shah was a little anxious. It was about himself. Shah was always very careful. Natural elements. A long time ago, before Gryffindor was born, there were many people who mastered it, but until now, in more than 1,000 years, I have never seen it again, except for you. The Sorting Hat said fondly. Your natural element is thunder and lightning, little seal. The 4 elements are the basics of the world. You should know that there are countless natural elements on top of the 4 elements. Above the natural elements are the rules of this world. Now, these constraints make up our wizarding world, and these are Ravenclaw studies, and you can check them out when you have time. The reason why ancient gods are called gods is because they have mastered the rules above nature. Of course, the greatest magic is time, and even gods cannot resist the invasion of time. The Sorting Hat missed the old days, and slowly began to explain to Seal. You should know that Shire, the founders each possessed an element, and this strength was already very strong at the time, but it was difficult to go further. The 4 elements constitute the most basic foundation, but it is perceived that these elements are extremely difficult, and it is impossible without the leadership of someone who has already controlled them, so the 4 of them got together. Common improvement was their initial goal, but they failed. In Ravenclaw's research, natural elements need opportunities. It is a pity that even after a lot of efforts in the end, Slytherin did not even run away alone. Find a person who understands nature, and the 4 people will stop at the 4 elements after all. The Sorting Hat was very serious, but at this time, Seal's chin was about to fall to the ground. This was all dry stuff from a long time ago. These things may not be written in books at all. Seal was surprised. The Sorting Hat ignored Charles and continued. Charles, you are born with the 4 elements, and the natural elements sought by the 4 founders are in your soul. It is very violent, exuding an aura of destruction all the time, and you can't even notice it. Do you know why? The Sorting Hat was patient. After Seal shook his head sluggishly, the Sorting Hat continued his popular science. Wizards are different from wizards. A wizard is a title for an advanced wizard, and you are born a wizard, but you are only a child in the wizarding field. It's like a mountain floating in the sky. Your foundation is still on the ground, although you can occasionally use the mountain to kill the enemy, but if you don't complete the road from the ground to the mountain, you will never reach the top of the mountain. Quote. At this time, Charles felt that his worldview had been subverted, and he dazedly agreed to the Sorting Hat, all right, to learn the basics. Then he walked out of the room of requirement in a daze, glanced at the time. Seal woke up instantly, and hurriedly started running to the dormitory. Hermione was almost there. Before that, he had to send the Sorting Hat back to the dormitory, otherwise Hermione it must have been another slap in the face. Chapter 30 Return to Everyday. After receiving Hermione in a hurry, Shire handed Hermione the phoenix quill made by herself as if offering a treasure. Hermione was very pleasantly surprised. As a scholar, she liked stationery and other gifts. Received a lot for Christmas, but none of them were as good as Shire's. According to Seal, Seal ran to Fawkes and asked for a feather for a long time, and promised to help take care of Fawkes for a while. In short, Hermione was very happy and moved, and Shire was also very moved. Hermione's gift was a red and gold Gryffindor scarf, which Hermione knitted by herself. Mrs. J helped embroider a roaring lion and the name of Seal. Hermione was a little embarrassed. After all, the scarf was very rough, but Seal liked it very much. After having an opening dinner together in the hall, Seal and Sanshouji returned to the lounge together. Under Ron's big mouth, everyone knew that Seal was taking care of the principal temporarily. Phoenix. At the request of a group of lion cubs who were experiencing unusually strong, Seal had to take Fawkes out to open the eyes of everyone. This behavior caused Fawkes to roll his eyes. Fawkes thought Seal had forgotten how he got to the Gryffindor lounge. But he didn't resist too much. After he lightly pecked on the head of Seal, Fawkes took a rest and sang a song, which could be regarded as a gift to the little lions. After everyone had noisily admiring Fawkes, and under the urging of the class tomorrow, they broke up and went to sleep. Seal hugged Fawkes and the 3 little cubs in front of the fire to exchange the harvest of this holiday. Hermione was a little pissed that Ron and Harry didn't go looking for information about Nick Lemd after he left. Especially Harry, after knowing that Harry met Dumbledore on a night tour almost every day at Christmas. Hermione swore that if it wasn't for Charles to stop and deduct points from the academy, Hermione would definitely take it out. The wand beats Harry to death. Ron was also a little embarrassed. Thinking of quickly changing the subject, he naturally asked Charles if he knew Nick LeMay. Ciel's answer was also natural, of course he knew. At first, Ron, Harry and Hermione hadn't reacted yet. They were talking to themselves. Suddenly, the three of them seemed to have discovered something wrong together. At the same time, they turned their heads and stared at Ciel. Obviously, if you don't give us a clear explanation today, it may be absolutely impossible for you to sleep alive tonight. Ciel was stared at by the three of them, and answered with an embarrassed smile that you didn't ask me, and then tried to pick up Fox and run away quickly. Thanks to Ciel's habit of always carrying a wand with him, Hermione, who was most influenced by Ciel, was also infected with this vicious habit. At this point, the habit seemed extremely important, and Hermione pulled out her wand and cast a leg-locking spell on Ciel. Ciel lay helplessly on the ground and looked at the three people who were approaching with their fists clenched. Fox, who was in his arms, turned into flames and ran away the moment Ciel fell, completely ignoring Ciel lying on the ground. So, you always knew, but you never told us. Just watched us rummage through the library. Hermione's eyes were dangerous, looking at Shire, who fell to the ground. Ciel had a premonition that my life was over, and answered cautiously, "No, none of you asked me, and I was very busy those days." Ciel was still trying to save himself, but it was completely useless. "Beat him," Ron howled, and the three little ones rushed up together. That night, Ciel's screams resounded through Hogwarts. Who Nicole LeMay is, the four little ones also showed that they gave up playing around under the influence of Ciel. In addition to Harry, he had to train Quidditch, but Ciel was really serious about Quidditch. He has no interest at all, and even his flying class was skipped for the reason of controlling altitude. Quidditch is too heroic. It really doesn't mean anything to Ciel, just look at the data. Find out who will win this match. No experience. Although Ciel had never experienced it before, Ciel always felt that riding a stick would definitely hit some parts. Even though Harry had always had a cushion spell with Sharkop, Ciel still rode a stick to fly in the sky. Not interested, Ciel even started to reverse the science of how convenient a magic carpet would be, and the ride was definitely more comfortable than a stick. Both Harry and Ron felt speechless in this regard, but considering that they were definitely the strongest among the boys, they were still obedient and did not refute too much. So the four little ones started to brush the library again and again, and then under the threat of Ciel and Hermione, they honestly connected magic and did their homework. Finally, one day, Ron may not be able to stand such a boring life. He decided to have some fun in the library. If it goes on like this, he will definitely be driven crazy by Ciel and Hermione. Then when he was wandering around, he saw Hagrid sneaking out with a few books, and the sharp-eyed Ron knew after seeing the title of the book, the fun was coming. So after dragging the other three out of the library, he described his findings in great detail. When he finished speaking, Ciel also remembered that Hagrid had a dragon. What was it called? Norbert. So Ciel also became interested. Compared with riding a stick or sitting on the magic carpet, the Dragon Knight is obviously more handsome than the others. When Ciel gets the sword of Gryffindor, the sword in the right hand, the wand in the left hand, and the flying dragon in the crotch, the magic will learn a light spell, the skill points saved, point the one-handed sword, charge, chop, cooperate. The flying dragon on the mount is absolutely handsome. Thinking of this, Ciel felt that this was a mess, so he began to agree with Ron in various ways, causing Harry, Hermione and Ron to keep looking at Ciel with very strange eyes. Ciel was stared at the three of them, looking at the three with a dazed expression, and finally Harry asked kindly, "Charles, are you all right?" This time, Ciel couldn't fix it. "Of course I'm fine. Why do you ask?" Ciel felt very strange. Did they see my dream of being a dragon knight? No, usually, you are not so interested in one thing. Generally speaking, when you encounter these things, you will say that you need to read books, contact magic, etc., and let the three of us do it ourselves. Hermione was very seriously answering Seal. He even had the attitude of wanting to take Seal to the school hospital for a look. Seal was also stunned, looking at the three people opposite him with a black question mark on his face. JPG. Chapter 31-Hagrid's Dragon Egg. Under the constant urging of Seal, the three little ones took Seal to Hagrid's hut. On the way, even Ron looked at Seal with a puzzled expression, but Ron knew that there were very few Seal would agree with him. Now agree so. This surprised Ron, and even wondered if Seal was under the Imperious Curse or something. Finally, Seal couldn't stand the strange gazes of the three of them, and asked the three of them again, "Is there any problem? Your eyes are very strange." The three of them looked at each other neatly, nodded neatly, and then he shook his head neatly again. Confused about Charles. He simply wanted to be a dragon knight. Finally, under the strange atmosphere, the four came to Hagrid's hut. The doors and windows were closed, and the curtains were still drawn during the day. Harry stepped forward and knocked on the door. "Back up, Fangya, hurry up." Hagrid scolded from the door, and then the huge door was pulled open. Hagrid stood at the door with his apron on, and the hot air rushed out of the door. "God, Hagrid, are you in the sauna?" Harry couldn't help but complain. Hagrid looked at the three dodgingly. At this time, Seal felt that this big man was still very cute compared to the original book, at least not worried that he would lie, because he couldn't hide it at all. Hagrid hesitated, not knowing how to answer Harry. When Hermione saw Hagrid like this, the atmosphere was inexplicably awkward. Hermione, who couldn't bear to watch it, reluctantly took over the words and introduced Seal to Hagrid. Under Hermione's recommendation, Seal greeted Hagrid generously, and Hagrid responded enthusiastically. Of course, after learning about Seal's academic tyranny and the identity of Hermione's childhood sweetheart, Hagrid finally let go of his guard and let the four people enter his cabin. As soon as he entered the door, Shire saw the dragon egg placed on the fire, and Harry, who followed closely behind, also saw it. After Harry asked Hagrid, Hagrid hesitantly answered the origin of the dragon egg, and expressed his desire to raise this hard-earned little cutie. After listening to Hagrid's introduction, Hermione frowned, thinking that it was illegal to raise dragons privately, while Seal cracked the corners of his mouth, thinking that he was a dragon knight. So Seal burst out with great enthusiasm and began to discuss with Hagrid about how to raise dragons and the possibility of becoming a dragon knight. It was also the first time that Hagrid had seen such a bold little wizard, and he actually wanted to ride a dragon, but some of Seal's ideas successfully aroused some interest in Hagrid. So under the surprised gazes of the other three, Hagrid and Seal began a passionate exchange of words, and the content changed from riding a dragon at the beginning to riding a variety of dangerous creatures. The two were so excited that they even forgot about the trio sitting on the side. Ron felt a little unreal at this time, and quietly touched Hermione. "Charta, well, how should I put it? It's the first time I know that Charles is so interested in magical creatures," Ron said very euphemistically. Hermione rolled her eyes. "You can just say that Seal is not a good law-abiding student like me, and he has never been, or why do you think I always call him a naughty person?" Harry interjected suddenly. "I always thought it was a nickname." Hermione blushed as soon as Harry's words fell. "Harry, we're just good friends. If you keep talking nonsense, you'll never want to touch my homework and notes again," Hermione said to Harry a little exasperatedly. Hearing such serious consequences, neither Ron nor Harry dared to go on. Sensitive. Finally, I don't know whether it was because he couldn't stand the sauna in Hagrid's cabin or the Hermione who Seal had already started to brag about and finally pulled the three of them away. After agreeing to see Xiaolong's broken shell, under Hermione's command, Ron and Harry ran away with the still interested Seal, and Hagrid waved his handkerchief at the door to say goodbye to the one they had just met. Confidant. "I can't go anymore." Seal started talking nonsense as if he was drunk, and even started to say that if Professor Dumbledore had a grandson, then the strongest mount in the world would be there. Old Dang was born when he carried his grandson to play. Harry couldn't take it any longer. After walking a long way, Shah-ur, who was awakened by the cold wind, was not so excited. Harry and Ron looked sideways. It was the first time they saw Seal like this. In their understanding, Seal had always been a quiet scholar reading a book by the fireplace. How could they ever think that Seal was a naughty man at heart? A funny guy. Why are you looking at me? I'm right. Think carefully about what I'm saying is wrong. Charles saw Harry and Ron looking at him with the same eyes as you were. Terrible, very honest question. Seeing that Seal was so righteous, Harry and Ron also cooperated and thought about it carefully. Seal was right, but they always felt that something was not right. Seeing the constipated expressions on Harry and Ron's faces, Seal knew that the flickering was successful. With a happy face, he wrapped his arms around the two of them. He spoke to the two of them with the tone of a demon seducing mortals. Harry, Ron, you know that in case of danger, there is an invincible spell in school. As long as you read it, you can definitely defeat your opponent immediately. Harry and Ron immediately became interested and looked at Seal with great curiosity. Even Hermione pricked up her ears secretly. She was also curious about what magical spell Seal had mastered. Want to know? Charles smiled like a little devil. After seeing Harry and Ron nodding frantically, they gestured for them to come over with a proud look, and then shouted in their ears, "The strongest magic at Hogwarts is Dumbledore is flying here." Quote. After speaking, he laughed and ran to the hall. If you don't run now, are you still waiting to be beaten? Harry and Ron vigorously rubbed their ears that were aching from Seal's shouting, and then ran towards Seal, roaring and swearing that they would definitely beat Seal. Even Hermione rolled her eyes. It was like nonsense. As long as Principal Dumbledore was at the school, he really wanted to summon the principal. As the greatest magician in the world, wouldn't he kill any danger in seconds? Looking at the three boys on the road, Hermione was a little tired and ran up and started telling them to slow down and stop falling. Dumbledore is coming. Ha 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 ha. The old headmaster, who was standing by the window of the headmaster's room, looked at the three boys playing below and Hermione, who was playing the role of the old mother. Suggests, that kid is an interesting kid, isn't he? Old man. Behind Dumbledore, Fawkes, who was supposed to be in Shire's dormitory, stood on Dumbledore's desk and politely gave the old man a roll of eyes. Dumbledore watched the four people below scoff and disappeared from sight and entered the castle. Turning around and smiling, he said to Fawkes, "It's time for you to go back, old man. Help me to look after the two boys. They are all hope for the future. Thank you for your hard work." Fawkes looked at Dumbledore for a while, and then a long cry disappeared into the office as a flame. Future. Dumbledore rubbed his eyes with a headache in his office chair. Chapter 32-Birth of a Dragon. After noisily eating dinner and returning to the dormitory, Seal lay obediently on the bed. The Dragon Knight can think about what Seal thinks. It is too difficult to achieve. According to Seal's family income, raising a dragon is purely bullshit. Also, as a staunch Muggle party, Seal would look magical by raising dragons at home, which is not good. That's right, Seal intends to return to the Muggle world after graduation. After all, Seal knows the direction of the world in the next 30 years, and also knows how Muggles will see the sky in 30 years. It must be more difficult to hide. The development of the internet and the popularization of smart devices are destined to never become the mainstream in the future. Moreover, Shire holds the original stocks of several future technology giants bought by his birthday-fooling dad. It can basically be said that Shire can definitely live the life of the capitalist-rich generation in the next few decades. Seal shook his head. The future is still too far away. Let's think about the current situation first, and let's not talk about anything else. Norbert's appearance is destined to be not far away from the Forbidden Forest. This is the first time Harry has faced Voldemort directly. Of course, Seal, who received Dumbledore's plug-in, could not stand by and watch. In fact, when Hermione also chose to accompany Harry to see the dragon, Seal had no choice. Even though Voldemort is still a remnant of his soul now, Seal dare not underestimate him. No matter who you are, Seal isn't stupid enough to think that he can be tough on Voldemort now. Thinking of this, Seal started to get nervous again, and he will have to work harder tomorrow. At the very least, he must have the ability to protect himself. Although Shah believed that old Deng, who arranged the trip to the Forbidden Forest, would definitely ensure the safety of his mission, Shah at least had to make himself last until old Deng came. Therefore, Dengbu said, Leto flew to Shire and there wasn't much of a joke in it. In the days that followed, under the impetus of his little life, Charles began to live like an ascetic again. The library, the room of obligatory requests, the classroom and the lounge began to live at 4 o'clock in one line. Harry and Ron breathed a sigh of relief when they saw that Seal had returned to his previous appearance. This was the Seal they knew. Only Hermione began to worry about Seal. As Seal's childhood sweetheart, she knew that only when she returned from Hagrid's hut could she be the original Seal, and now Seal is obviously following her. It was the same as before the troll, as if preparing something. Hermione, who had almost guessed the truth, also began to study and practice harder. Like last time, she could only scream, and the experience of putting all the pressure on Seal once was enough. This time Hermione vowed to help Seal, at least when the danger came. She had the right to stand beside Seal instead of behind. Then, Harry and Ron's hard days began. As good friends, Seal just worked hard to improve himself and didn't pull anyone. After all, his path was different from other little wizards, but Hermione was different. She started frantically pulling her two useless men to learn how to connect, trying to make them useful a little bit. Finally, just when Ron collapsed on the dining table in the hall at noon and felt like he was about to collapse at this rate, an owl landed in front of him and Harry handed out a note. It's about to break the shell. It was Hagrid, and Ron immediately regained his spirits. This is one of the few good things that can interrupt the madness of Seal and Hermione. So under the organization of Ron, the two brought the reluctant Shire and Hermione to Hagrid's cabin. As soon as he entered the Shire, he almost exited. Compared with the sauna last time, Hagrid's cabin was even hotter. The four people walked in and saw that the dragon egg placed on the fire had cracked a little. It's about to break the shell. It's great, I've already thought about it. I want to call it Norbert. Hagrid looked very excited, dancing and looking at the dragon egg, immersed in the joy of being a mother. Seal was not as interested as last time. Different from the trio, he quietly sat in the back holding Hufflepuff's magic book and watched quietly. The matter of facing Voldemort has been pressing like a mountain. In his heart, he was afraid of any accident. After all, this is no longer a novel but a living reality. Finally, the little dragon broke his shell, and he kept screaming and looking ugly, and Hagrid's motherly love almost overflowed. Come on Norbert, Mother is here. After speaking, he carefully picked up the fire dragon, as if the little dragon was really his own child. The Hungarian horntail, Hagrid, I don't think you can keep it. It's too dangerous, and in a few weeks he'll be bigger than your house, and you won't have a place to keep it. Awake, persuaded Hagrid. Hagrid didn't move at all, and let the dragon blow a little flame on his small beard. It's all right, he's still young, I'll find a way then. Let Hagrid keep it. Ron, I remember your brother working in a dragon farm in Romania. Maybe you can try to contact your brother and send the dragon away before anyone finds out. Charles was calm. Put away the book while Norbert burned Hagrid's beard. This book is the only one, and it's with baby Charles. After hearing Ciel's words, the three little ones felt that it was feasible, so they were relieved. Harry and Ron even prepared to tease the fierce little dragon in Hagrid's arms. Hagrid was also much more awake after Norbert burned his beard. He also knew that he couldn't keep Norbert for a long time, so he also compromised. Well, at least until weaning, I can keep it. Hagrid, a half-giant, affirmed Ciel's proposal with some sadness. Okay, I'll write to my brother when I'm in the dormitory. Don't worry Hagrid, Norbert will get the most professional care. Oh, before Ron could finish his words, Xiaolong bit him. It hurt. Ron jumped up. Seeing Ron's tragic situation, Harry also gave up his plan to continue to get Xiaolong. After discussing with Hagrid about the specific transfer of Norbert, the four of them were ready to return to the castle. Seal walked the fastest, and he had to continue to study Hufflepuff's magic book in the afternoon, and his time was running out. Seal is very anxious. According to Seal's current point of view, he can almost use most of the magic in the book, but due to the physical condition of just 12 years old, the number of spells he can cast is definitely limited. Therefore, Seal was in a hurry, almost to the point of forgetting to eat and sleep. The four of them walked back in a hurry, especially after Hermione reminded Ron that dragon saliva is usually slightly poisonous. The four of them walked faster. Even Ron walked faster than Seal, and now he especially hopes to hurry up. The library looked up and found how to treat his hand. He didn't dare to go to the hospital, and he would definitely not be able to explain it at that time. The three of them walked in a hurry, completely ignoring the ray of platinum gold reflection under the Hagrid window. Seal glanced at it and said nothing, turned and followed. Chapter 33_Shire's first group night tour. Time flies. Hagrid's little dragon Norbert has grown a lot bigger than the big dog's teeth in a week. Of course, it is not only Norbert who has grown up, but also Ron's bitten paw, which is swollen on the bear's paw. But what Seal admired most was Ron's loyal spirit. He didn't go to the hospital, just to keep Hagrid's dragon-raising behavior from being exposed. This made Seal both admirable and amusing. It was impossible not to laugh. No one could hold the hand of the injured friend, which was swollen like a bear's paw, even though Ron himself said it didn't hurt at all. Of course, Ron is not without revenge at all, and keeps writing to his brother, hoping that they can come and take Norbert away sooner, so that he can go to the school hospital to see his bear paw that does not hurt. Finally, Ron's long-awaited reply was brought back at noon on Friday by a panting owl, and after Shire fed some nuts and dried fish, he flapped his wings in satisfaction and went back to rest. Ron didn't look at the owl. All his attention was on his brother's reply. He excitedly opened the envelope and looked at it. After a while the letter was handed to Harry and Shire. My brother told me that they would be picking up Norbert at midnight on Saturday and would like us to take Norbert to the observatory tower, he said to Harry. Seal looked at Draco, who pretended to be walking, but had actually been swaying around the group 3 times. He didn't say anything. The trip to the Forbidden Forest was a test. Seal and Harry had to go, so even if it was he was caught and deducted points, and Seal also recognized it. Anyway, Loudang would definitely add it back in the end. After a few people negotiated, Ron immediately began to write a reply, no longer caring whether it was the hall or the dormitory. Seal didn't speak, just watched a few people plan. He just needed to participate. Finally, after a few people made a final decision, Harry, Ron and Hermione were going to go to Hagrid in a while and tell Hagrid the news that Hagrid had to prepare Norbert's cage by tomorrow night. Seal didn't go with him. As the test was approaching, Seal couldn't care about other things. He would prepare to continue to practice magic in the room of requirement. Seal recently discovered a way to level up quickly. After all, the Sorting Hat is still a product of the Big Four era more than 1,000 years ago. Seal found that as long as he practiced with the Sorting Hat, there were many small faults and mistakes when casting spells. Seal is very excited. The efficiency of having a teacher and thinking about it is completely different. Finally, it was Saturday, and around 11 o'clock in the evening, Seal, Ron, Hermione and Harry appeared in the lounge together. Harry, you two just follow Seal. I think you should wear an invisibility cloak, so that if you get caught, the punishment will be lighter. Hermione was a little irritable. After all, it was against the school rules. Hermione was actually some resentment. Seal looked at the irritable Hermione and shrugged helplessly to the two of them, then rubbed Hermione's head lightly to soothe everyone's emotions, and then stood at the door of the lounge, ready to set off with the 3 of them. Earth rhythm, perception. Seal's wand drew a circle on the top of his head, and then, under the suspicious eyes of the 3 little ones, he felt the ground shake slightly, and then Seal set off with the 3 of them. Cool. Seal, what kind of magic is this? Teach us when you have time, so that we will never be caught by Filch again. Ron looked at Seal's magic with some envy. Charles looked at Ron and said, "Okay, I'll lend you the book when I have time, but I think you should ask Hermione. I lent her the book 3 days ago. If she knows you, you can ask her to teach you. Trust me, Ron, Hermione is definitely a better teacher than me." Hermione's face turned red when she heard this, and she lightly stabbed Seal, but did not speak. Seal had memorized all Hufflepuff's magic books 3 days ago. There are some powerful earth element magics. Seal also knew the principle but never practiced it. According to the Sorting Hat, the current Seal, it's still too tender. If there is a powerful earth element magic, Seal may be sucked out. After seeing that Seal finished studying the thick magic book, Hermione let Seal borrow it out of curiosity, but to Hermione's despair, Hermione knew every letter on it, but even the in one piece, Hermione couldn't read it. And Hermione practiced the sensory element as described in the book, meditating hard all night, and didn't feel anything except the next morning. After talking for a while, they all quieted down and followed Seal to start various positions to avoid Filch and his cat on patrol. After several thrilling dodging, the 4 of them, panting, finally came to the sea. The door of the hut. Harry knocked on the door, and Hagrid opened the door with snot and tears. Little Long Noble was locked in a cage at this time. Hagrid fed him 3 barrels of whiskey to ensure that he would not wake up halfway. "Oh, my dear child, Mum. Mum can't bear you." Hagrid continued to wipe his tears as he looked at the cage. Seal went up and patted Hagrid reluctantly. "Don't worry about Hagrid. He will be taken care of by the most professional. Ron's brother is a professional." Harry also wanted to comfort Hagrid, opened his mouth and found that he didn't know how to comfort the crying strong man with pear blossoms and rain, and finally Hermione made the decision. "It's time for us to go. We'll lose time if we go any further. Hagrid, let's go, and I'll ask Ron's brother to send you some pictures of Norbert." Hagrid nodded and watched the 4 carry Norbert away. "It's really heavy." Harry carried it out of breath, and finally approached the castle. Several people decided to take a rest. Even Seal felt that this guy was dead and dead. "Wait, why don't we use the floating charm to solve it?" Ron gasped and asked helplessly with his hands on the wall. Hearing Ron's words, both Seal and Hermione Harry were a little confused. Looking at Ron, they asked in unison, "Why didn't you say it earlier?" "Well, you didn't ask. I thought you all thought about it." Ron was also startled and replied in a low voice. Hermione glanced at the 2 of them, then rolled her eyes, pulled out her wand and cast a levitating spell on the cage, and then the 4 of them carried the cage, under the cover of Ciel's perception magic, all the way to the observatory. After handing over Norbert with Charlie, who had been waiting at the observatory, he watched the 4 of them fly away on broomsticks with the cage, and a few of them started to walk back with confidence. Just when a few people walked to the stairs, they heard a voice, "Professor McGonagall, I swear, they are definitely here, and there is a dragon." "It's Draco, damn it, how did he know what we were doing?" Ron scolded. "Mr. Malfoy, you have to know that if you lie, the consequences are very serious." Professor McGonagall's very serious voice followed. As the 2 stepped closer and closer, Hermione panicked and looked at Harry. "Where's your invisibility cloak?" "No," Harry said helplessly. "Charles, can you escape with us?" Ron was starting to play. "Do you think I'm like a gopher?" Charles was very calm, looking at the 3 people who were scared, a little helpless. Finally, Professor McGonagall found the group of 4 standing together on the observatory. "Hey, Professor McGonagall, I want to say that the 3 of us will ask Hermione to teach us astronomy lessons. Do you believe it?" Shire was a little naughty. "Say hello to Professor McGonagall." Chapter 34-Forbidden Forest Prelude. Professor Shagger's mouth began to tremble when he saw the 4 people. "Hermione, I always thought you were a good student who followed the rules. I really didn't expect that you would actually follow them." Professor McGonagall looked unusually angry, but didn't say Shire. She had known what Seal looked like through Dumbledore long before the school started, but in her impression, Seal had always been quite honest. Strictly speaking, this should be the first time that Seal was arrested. "I'm sorry, Professor." Hermione bowed her head in shame. Points off. 50 points for everyone, including you, Mr. Malfoy. Professor McGonagall ignored Hermione's apology. What? Asked Malfoy and Hermione almost simultaneously. Hermione couldn't believe it. 50 points. Hermione almost cried at the thought. Professor McGonagall, I came here to inform you, you can't do this. Draco defended weakly. But you're out, Malfoy, it's a fact, and I'll communicate with Dean Snape myself, the 5 of you. You must be locked up. I'll let you know when it's time. Now, the 4 of you will get back to me right away. Go to the lounge, Mr. Malfoy, follow me, and I'll take you to your dean. Professor McGonagall took Draco away. The 3 of them followed Seal back to the dormitory with dejected faces. The 4 of them added up to a full 200 points. On the contrary, Seal was very calm. After all, he knew the consequences. What's school policy is 1, don't get caught. Hey, you 3, keep an eye on it. It's nothing, Hermione, you have more than 50 extra points since the beginning of the school year, don't be too sad. Charles looked at the 3 depressed people and comforted. Hearing this, Hermione was even more sad. She cried out with a wow, and Seal hurriedly hugged her and comforted her. Harry and Ron remained standing, not knowing what to do. Seal was a little helpless, looking at Hermione who was crying in the storm in his arms, and looking at the 2 dumb geese on the opposite side, who seemed to have lost their souls. Seal said helplessly to Harry and Ron, keep your eyes peeled, at least Malfoy's got points off too, and I don't think Professor Snape will let him go. You 2 go back to your dorm and sleep, you 2 big men won't cry. Then he ignored them and took Hermione to the sofa to sit down and concentrate on comforting her. Finally, after Seal worked hard and promised Hermione to teach her the contents of the Hufflepuff magic book, Hermione's mood improved a little, wiped her tears, and returned to the dormitory under the watch of Seal. Seal felt a little helpless after sending the 3 away. In the end, he had nothing to say about comforting Hermione. He couldn't tell Hermione that at the end of the semester, Loudang would be biased to add you back, right? Seal shook his head and went back to the dormitory to sleep in peace with the helplessness of his old father. Early the next morning, the Gryffindor students and the Slytherin students looked at the missing gems in the jar with a bewildered look, especially Gryffindor. The gems were almost bottomed out. Many people suspected that this thing was broken, and finally, under the big mouth of Malfoy killing 1,000 enemies and self-destructing 800, some things from last night were finally revealed. This time, even if Harry was the savior, no Gryffindor would give him a good look, let alone the other 2. It doesn't matter to Seal. In his opinion, there is nothing to be ashamed of when these little brats look angry. After all, the original intention was for friends, and Ron finally went to the school hospital to bandage his hands. Everyone was happy to see it in Seal. But Hermione's head was lowered, as if she was embarrassed. Seal looked at her like this, a little helpless, looking at the little wizards staring at them around, and the disgust in his eyes. Charles was also a little bit angry. After coaxing the trio to go to the classroom first, Seal stood up and looked around the little wizards in Gryffindor. I don't know why you look at us like this, not to mention that Hermione and I both scored far more than 50 points this semester. Even Harry and Ron, aren't they your classmates? When your companions made mistakes, not only did you not help to remedy the mistakes, but instead, you looked at the victims with your own ignorant eyes. When did Gryffindor become so dirty? Quote. Seal looked around in anger, and the elements of long-term practice began to stir with his emotions, which made Seal appear even more majestic. I usually copy our homework very enthusiastically, but now I don't talk about comfort, even if we can't be treated equally. Are you really worthy of staying in an academy that claims to be courageous and enthusiastic, hoeing the strong and helping the weak? Or are you talking about today's The Gryffindor House News is, exclude dissidents and kill your companions? After Seal finished speaking, he snorted coldly, turned around and left. Under the agitation of his own elements, Seal was like an angry lion, not at all. People dare to stop. Until Seal disappeared into the hall, all the Gryffindors present bowed their heads in shame. As Seal said, the lions should not target their own people. In the next few days, the group of 4 felt a lot better. Although Slytherin was still cynical, the little lions in Gryffindor would subconsciously shelter the group of 4. Our lions can only be bullied by us. Not only that, in the classroom, the little lions seem to be going crazy, always raising their hands enthusiastically to answer questions, even if they didn't know how. They should raise their hands bravely. It has to be said that under the words of Shah, the treatment of the 3 little animals is much better than the original. Seal is also very relieved to continue his magic research. After this battle, Seal's prestige has improved a lot in Gryffindor anyway. There are always little lions greeting him on the road, which made Shah's prestige a lot better. He himself has always been inexplicable. A good life is always short, and what should come is still coming back. At the end of a week, Professor McGonagall finally brought a note and told the 4 people that the closure would start on Friday night in the school's Forbidden Forest. After Seal received the note, he began to prepare for this trip. He still carried the homemade bomb he brought from home. This thing is not small in the castle, but who knows in the Forbidden Forest. After sorting out his combat uniform and small dagger, he also did not forget to say hello to General Fox. In case of any accident or force majeure, I hope Fox will bring Loudang over, or he can take them away. Time finally came to the time of confinement. When Seal appeared in the foyer of the assembly, all 4 people present showed expressions of surprise, except Filch pouted and kept mumbling and cursing something in a low voice. Harry couldn't help but ask, "Charles, are you going to fight a war?" Chapter 35-Forbidden Forest. Seal was still wearing a combat uniform, but this time he didn't wear a school uniform cloak, so the equipment on his body was clear at a glance. I saw that Seal had a wand pin to his waist, and a dagger pin to his left leg, which looked very sharp. There are rows of small bags hanging on the chest, and inside the bag are the bombs made by Charles, which can be exploded by throwing the ring, which is very convenient. Charles looked at Harry and shrugged. "That's the Forbidden Forest. I call it preparedness. You know, a hammer, don't hold my thigh in danger." Harry rolled his eyes after hearing Ciel's rebuttal and stopped talking, but Hermione pulled Seal over and whispered that Ciel's preparations were a bit exaggerated. Seal is also very helpless, and he doesn't want to exaggerate, but he can't tell them that the 2-hole socket man is drinking unicorn blood in the Forbidden Forest to help himself, right? On the other hand, it was Malfoy who laughed loudly at Seal, and kept saying that Seal was just a coward or something. Seal rolled his eyes and ignored him. If Seal remembered correctly, it seemed that it was the eldest young master in the end. Frightened and fainted. Filch interrupted Draco's mocking impatiently. For him, as long as he was not allowed to punish the students, he felt that it was not good. He scolded the 5 people to Hagrid's hut and knocked on them. He opened the door and briefly exchanged it, and then left under Hagrid's disgusting eyes. After Filch left, Hagrid didn't have time to look at the 5 little wizards present. When Hagrid saw Ciel's equipment, he was obviously stunned, and then he continued to comfort Ciel's Forbidden Forest. He is very safe. He doesn't need these things, and Ciel is unmoved. In the end, Hagrid reluctantly gave up trying to persuade Ciel, went back to the house, took out his big crossbow, held Fangya, and led the 5 people to the Forbidden Forest together. "Our mission this time is to investigate the unicorn attack in the Forbidden Forest. Follow me closely and don't get lost." Hagrid introduced the mission as he walked. A few days ago, the centaurs in the Forbidden Forest discovered that several unicorns were attacked. The attackers are unknown. We are going to find out the attackers tonight. Remember, don't be impulsive. If there is an abnormality, you will immediately launch a red firework spell. I think you all know this spell. Don't do it, just investigate. Hagrid kept repeating, for fear that a few people would be in danger, especially Harry and Seal. Harry was okay. Ciel's outfit was too scary. It is absolutely unbeatable. After walking a short distance, Hagrid noticed a silvery, radiant bloodstain on the ground. Look, this is the blood of unicorns. Let's just follow the bloodstain. I hope this kid is all right. But Hagrid, why are you hunting unicorns? Their blood can delay death, but they will be cursed. Hermione asked in confusion. I don't know, Hermione. It's a pity that some crazy guys always refuse to let go of these pure lives, so everyone should pay attention and protect themselves. Hagrid told everyone again. At this time, Draco couldn't be bothered. The moment he entered the Forbidden Forest, he was honest, and even began to regret why he didn't ask his father to give him a set of CL's battle shirt. The few people kept walking, and the blood in front suddenly separated into two roads. Hagrid looked at the fork and had a headache. Looks like we're going to be separated, so let's go this way. I'll take Hermione, Ron this way, Charles, you're going this way with Fang, Harry and the Malfoy boys. Hagrid simply check out the team. It didn't matter to Seal, what he cared about most was Hermione. After all, being with Hagrid was much safer than their team. But Malfoy Island City protested fiercely, but unfortunately it was ineffective. After Hagrid's sentence that there is Fang, and the creatures in the Forbidden Forest will not harm them, the two teams are separated. Harry leads Fang in the front, and Seal follows with a wand in his hand. He looked very nervous, not to mention Malfoy behind him, who was shaking like a sieve. I don't know how long they walked. The blood in front of them disappeared, and they walked forward for a short time, and suddenly Fangya seemed to sense something, and refused to continue to walk forward without saying anything. The strangeness of Fang terrified Malfoy and refused to move forward. In the end, Seal could only continue to move forward for a short distance with the daring Harry. When turning around a bush, Seal immediately found a unicorn lying on the ground, obviously more air in and less air out. Charlie stopped Harry, and the two hid in the bushes. After a while, I saw a black robe floating down, like a Dementor, and slowly bent down and started drinking the blood of the unicorn. The moment the black-robed figure appeared, Harry's scar began to hurt violently. Harry tried his best to hold back his cry, but the scar became more and more painful, and Harry didn't persist. The moment Harry made a sound, a green light hit the two of them. Seal pushed Harry away and threw out an explosive. The green light just missed Harry and hit the ground. The pit, Seal got up in a hurry, pulled Harry and started to run back. With a bang, the bomb exploded behind the two of them, but the power did not decrease, and they both retreated. Charles threw two more bombs behind him and yelled at Harry, "Go, get back to Draco and run." The two of them ignored the explosion behind them and ran wildly in the direction of Siaz's exchange. Sha'ur was only covered with these 3 explosives, and he had already used up at this time. He couldn't help but regret why he didn't do more. Of course, Seal didn't sit still, and while running, he shot red fireworks into the sky. After the fireworks exploded, they formed a paragraph of, "Dumbledore is flying. 2 little bastards." An angry voice came from behind him, and another green light struck, and Seal also waved his wand to form a dirt wall behind him, blocking the green light. Seal knew that he couldn't run anymore. The hatred was all on him, and he had no choice but to shout to Harry to run and report the letter. The man in black robe didn't care about the escaped Harry, but looked at the earthen wall that Seal transformed with great interest. "Elemental magic. I haven't seen you for a long time, although you are still very young. What is your name?" The man in black robe floated in the air and did not attack again, but asked Seal with more interest, his voice hoarse like a snake saying, "Charles Lancaster. What, are you planning to let me go?" Charles didn't miss out, and continued to hide behind the wall to prepare for his next blow. The man in the black robe did not reply, but instead looked at Seal and spoke to Seal after a long time. "Join me and I will bring you strength and power. As long as you become my servant." "How?" Seal was a little stunned. He never thought that Voldemort would recruit him. Seal felt a little funny. "I don't want to lose my nose, Voldemort." Death grip. Seal stood up in an instant, facing Voldemort. It was an earth element magic. A giant hand instantly appeared on the ground behind Voldemort, as if swatting a fly, and slapped Voldemort on the ground at once. Seeing this, Seal immediately ran to other places in the woods. He didn't dare to stay where he was. Seal planned to engage in guerrilla warfare. "Charles Lancaster, I'm going to kill you." Just as Charles ran into the nearby woods, An angry roar came from behind him. Chapter 36-Jungle Battle and Phoenix Song. Seal relied on the giant tree in the woods to resist Voldemort's death curse behind him. Green light kept coming towards Seal, and Seal was constantly moving through the trees. "You don't have a nose, you really only know Avada like the legend." Seal ran and jumped to escape without forgetting to ridicule. The magic power consumed by Avada is not small, and Seal is gambling. Who can't stand it first? HMPH, a junior who can only speak quickly. Voldemort seemed to be stimulated by Seal, and stopped the firing of the death-catching spell. Seeing the timing, Seal unleashed the magic he had prepared for a long time at Voldemort. Flock of birds, change. A large cone-like spike floated around Seal, and shot it at Voldemort, who was still in the air. Voldemort did not panic, and a small silver shield was at hand to block Seal's attack. "I'm more and more interested in you now, wizard's magic combined with elemental magic. You are great. One last chance, surrender to me or die." Voldemort seemed to be very interested in Charles. "I can teach you more powerful magic than that old man Dumbledore's love magic." Voldemort kept persuading Seal, and after Voldemort blocked his attack, Seal turned around and ran away without hearing what he said. "Come on, I really don't want to be like you. If I remember correctly, you haven't touched the elements in your life, have you?" Charles mocked Voldemort without looking back. Courtesy of death. Voldemort seemed really provoked, removing the black robe's hidden magic, revealing his face on the back of Quirrell's head. After saying that, a giant snake made of flames spit out from its mouth. The giant snake slowly grew larger, burned the surrounding trees in an instant, and then jumped out at a very fast speed. Seal was taken aback, and he couldn't stop this thing. But Voldemort did not seem to let the serpent attack the char directly, but confined the char in a circle. "Now, how are you going to run? Don't panic, boy, you rejected the Dark Lord, twice. I'll torture you slowly. I haven't waned enough to beat you." Voldemort floated lightly, entering the circle, looking at Seal. His eyes were full of madness. "Well, it looks like the guerrilla war has failed. But my dear old Mr. Voldemort, how much strength do you have now?" Charles didn't run away, looking at Voldemort, ready to fight. "Really, I'll let you know, defying the great Dark Lord will end." After Voldemort said that, he raised his hand and shot a life-threatening curse at Seal. Seal waved his wand and walls of earth began to rise, blocking Voldemort's magic. He also added protection to himself, leaving time for his own life-saving magic. Voldemort did not lose the name of the Dark Lord, and the black magic continued to consume the dirt wall that Charles had created around him. Although the earth wall is very fragile, it has successfully delayed Voldemort's footsteps. Great Earth Element, listen to your master's call, manifest the prototype, and protect your master. Earth Golem. Seal came to a chant. This method is still given to him by the Sorting Hat, otherwise according to Shah-Ur's magic can't use this magic. After the end of Seal's chant, a huge 3-meter-tall golem made of earth and stone appeared in front of him. Seal took a lot of it. "Hey, don't say it looks like a giant monster in armor." The golem roared and rushed towards Voldemort, who had just emerged from the excavated wall. Voldemort was also startled, and immediately turned into black smoke and floated up. How could Seal let him do so, and pointed his wand down, the field of gravity. This magic was also learned by Seal in the book. If Hufflepuff used it himself, it could make people immediately slap it on the ground or even crush it into flesh, but Seal, at most, made it difficult for people to move. Voldemort fell back to the ground under the influence of the Seal gravity domain. Looking at the golem that rushed in front of him, a red light shot out immediately, and a big hole exploded in the golem's chest in an instant. Seal maintains the output of the domain and the golem. At this time, Seal is already sweating profusely. If the battle is not resolved within 30 seconds, it is absolutely impossible for Seal to use any more magic. The golem paused, his chest began to repair itself, and he kept throwing fists at Voldemort. Voldemort easily turned into black smoke to escape the attack. "Boy, how long can you hold on?" He looked at Seal, as if it's like watching an ant struggling constantly. Damn, damn, damn. Old danger Hagrid, why hasn't it arrived yet? Seal kept thinking about this question, and he was about to lose his grip. Fox. Seal finally couldn't hold on anymore, and Seal yelled out the moment the golem collapsed. A flash of fire appeared in front of Seal in an instant. With the sorting hat on his paws still in front of Seal, he flew into the sky and circled constantly. Charles finally exhausted his magic power and knelt on the ground, holding the sorting hat tightly in his hands. Ha 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 ha, this is what Dumbledore helped you with. A broken bird, and a broken hat. Shire, I really don't feel worth it for you. Why work hard for a stinky old man? He never cared about others. Life and death. Voldemort did not attack Seal, who had lost his strength, but stood in front of Seal and kept walking, continuing to tempt Seal. Come on, Voldemort, you and I both know we're not together. The last blow, this is my last strength. Seal was a little helpless. Dumbledore, who had been flying in the sky before, seemed to have no magic. Worked. Excellent. Very good. Charles Lancaster, I, Voldemort, recognize your courage. I agree to compete with you for this final blow. Voldemort laughed wildly. He thinks he must be the victor. Of course, Seal didn't give up. When he touched the hard handle in the sorting hat, he was extremely grateful to his former self for persevering in exercising. At least in the end, Seal was able to make a cameo as Gandalf. The phoenix above the sky seemed to sense the atmosphere between the two and began to sing songs continuously. Phoenix's singing was full of magic power, making Seal feel that he had recovered. Although there was no magic power, it was absolutely possible to restore Seal's strength. Avada Suo. Along with the singing of the phoenix, Voldemort waved a thick green light, and Charles quickly drew the Gryffindor sword from the sorting hat, roaring like a warrior and rushing out. Going up, a sword fell on Voldemort's life-threatening curse. A miraculous phenomenon happened. The Gryffindor sword actually split the life-threatening curse. Seal held the sword and walked towards Voldemort little by little. Although it was slow, Seal was still advancing. Voldemort was stunned, and things started to deviate from his track since Seal pulled out the sword of Gryffindor. Now his strength is at the expense of the blood of unicorns and the overdraft of Quirrell's life. In other words, it is absolutely impossible for him to persist for too long. Now Seal is holding his sword in front of Voldemort. The Gryffindor sword resisted the death-suppressing curse, and the entire blade turned red as if it had been burned by fire. Voldemort would never dare to remove the death-suppressing curse at will, otherwise his sword would definitely kill Quirrell, who was possessed by him. Just as the two were at a stalemate and felt bitter in their hearts, a feathered arrow shot over. Voldemort seized the opportunity to shake the magic power of his whole body, causing the feathered arrow to deflect and hit Seal's sword. Seal was startled, and taking advantage of this opportunity, Voldemort immediately removed the magic and disappeared into a cloud of black smoke. Of course, although Seal's sword was missed by the feather arrow, it definitely left a gap of more than 20 centimeters on Voldemort's arm. The wound left by the magic sword that had just absorbed the death curse was not so easy to heal. After Voldemort left, Charles stared blankly at the centaurs who came across the flames. Damn old head dang, Seal scolded and then passed out with a black eye. Chapter 37 _ The first in-depth conversation with Lao Dang. It was already the evening of the third day when Seal woke up again, and the first thing he saw was Miss Master of Everything, who was sleeping beside his bed. Shire felt a little distressed. He wanted to touch this little hairy ball that was guarding him, but found that it was extremely difficult for him to move. Mr. Seal, I think you'd better not move around, your body is too overdrawn. A very soft male voice came from the other side of the bed of Seal. After turning his head with difficulty, Seal saw another man sitting beside his bed with a long beard. Well, old Dang's head didn't run away. Come on, Charles, drink this, it will help you recover, and then can you tell me briefly about that night? Dumbledore picked up a bottle from the bedside table. The bottle was like blood, the same transparent liquid, and then slowly helped Seal to drink it. It is also very miraculous. After Seal drank the bottle of magical potion that he did not know what it was, Seal felt that his body had recovered a lot in an instant, and he even had the strength to move. Not bad, pomegranate flavor. Shah smacked his lips and complained happily. Of course, this is an ancient potion that I asked Professor Snape to make. It tastes great. It's just that the material is too rare. Dumbledore still looked at Seal with a smile. Oh, you can move around a bit. Don't worry about Miss Granger. I've put a little magic on her to make her sleep better. Seal glanced at Hermione, who was sleeping soundly on the bed, moved his body slightly, and then gently draped his coat over his body. Then he looked at the old Dengtu, as if he remembered something, and looked at the old Dengtu viciously. Lord Principal, tell the truth, were you nearby that night? I cast a lot of magic spells into the sky. Seal looked at his principal angrily. I'm sorry, Charles, I really wasn't at school that night. I was really delayed by some things that night. When I got back to school, you had been memorized from the Forbidden Forest by Hagrid. Dumbledore was sincere. He looked at Seal and answered very seriously. Seal also pouted, and he didn't know whether it was true or not anyway, so just treat what he said was true. Okay, Professor, how long have I slept? And what happened later? Seal continued to ask. He didn't intend to worry about whether Loudang was at school. Anyway, the matter has passed, and the most dangerous part has passed. Well, the rest of the puzzles, Charles, are not worried. Anyway, the place is small, and it's really not good. There is also a strategic weapon, Harry. Dumbledore saw that Seal didn't continue to worry about whether he was at school or not. The admiration in his eyes increased by a point, and then he replied kindly to Seal. Slow down, Seal, I will answer one by one. You are sleeping. It's been 3 days. Don't worry about your health. Even after a fierce battle, your magic has grown, which is a good char. Dumbledore paused and continued. As for the homework, I think Miss Granger will borrow your notes to review. Don't worry about Shire. It's nice to be young, I have to say. As soon as Dumbledore finished speaking, Seal's old face turned red, and he glared fiercely at his old man, as if he was saying, be serious, don't make trouble. Dumbledore looked at Seal's embarrassed look, and the smile on the corner of his mouth became even stronger. Instead of continuing to tease, he talked about what happened that night. According to Hagrid's description, after you separated that night, not long after you left, Hagrid heard 3 consecutive loud noises, and then the creatures in the entire Forbidden Forest began to riot, and Hagrid paid the price with the help of centaurs. It took a lot of effort to get Ron and Hermione out, and then a few people rushed to your intersection. Dumbledore took a sip of water and then said, not far from the intersection, I found Mr. Malfoy, who was hiding in a tree hole and had been urinating his pants in fright. Not long after he picked up Malfoy, he saw that he fainted. Harry on the ground and Fang by his side. Hagrid clearly realized the seriousness of the matter, and after asking the centaurs who came over to help him send the little wizard out of the forest, he began to look for you alone. When Hagrid followed your spellcasting traces all the way, and finally found out who you were fighting, you should know everything after that. Dumbledore finally finished speaking for a long time, and took another sip of him. Bring the water over, then look at Seal. Seal pouted, and was not going to hide anything. In this battle, he deeply realized that he is an old legendary wizard who is working hard and has difficulty playing. Don't say that a wizard is higher than a wizard. That's under the same level. At present, Voldemort's remnant soul can use Quirrell's body to almost call Seal's hammer daddy, and Seal needs an ally. When it comes to allies, can that one still have Loudang? So Seal didn't hide anything, looking into Dumbledore's eyes, very much looking forward to receiving a legilimency, and then allowing himself to study with peace of mind for the next few years. It's a pity that Seal was disappointed. Old Deng didn't do a passive attack on Seal like in the fan novel, but was waiting calmly for what Seal said. Come on, Old Deng, don't tell me you don't know who I'm fighting. You should know better than me. When you mentioned the corridor on the 4th floor during your sorting ceremony, I knew you were absolutely clear. Shire's showdown, I just know, I'm not pretending. Dumbledore's eyes narrowed with laughter the moment he heard this title. Yes, Seal's performance absolutely verified his conjecture that he saw Seal for the first time. Seal definitely knew something, and as a little wizard from Melon, even a natural elemental wizard, Seal was a little too familiar with the magic world when he first met. Ha ha ha, little Seal, are you planning to continue to disguise? Dumbledore smiled happily, as if something funny happened. But as soon as Dumbledore's words came out, Seal's eyes widened instantly and looked at Dumbledore in surprise. You. Do you know? Seal asked in disbelief. Ha 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 ha, don't be nervous kid, I probably knew that you had the talent to predict mags from the first time we met. After all, as a young wizard from Muggle, you are too familiar with the magic world, and I don't know much about it. If you guess wrong, the person you want to call when you meet for the first time should be Professor McGonagall. My appearance obviously scared you. Dumbledore smiled and looked at Seal, and said slowly. At this time, Seal was already stunned. He didn't expect that Dumbledore could infer so much in a single sentence. Okay, you won, I know a lot, how about it? Old dang, do you want to see the future of the magic world? Charles stared into Dumbledore's eyes without fear, and said seductively. No, I think, forget it. You just know the future. I believe you will never make the future worse, right? Dumbledore still looked at Seal with a smile. Chapter 38-follow-up. Dumbledore's answer obviously surprised Seal. The meaning of what he said was obvious. Dumbledore had never used legilimency on Seal, but rather believed in Seal, which surprised Seal a little. Well, I thought you had already seen it. Seal was a little discouraged, feeling that his salted fish life might not come true. In other words, didn't Dumbledore have a PTSD developed by Voldemort in many of his fans? Why is it so bad for him? Dumbledore seemed to know what Seal was thinking, and still replied with a smile. Without children, I believe that a child who has been full of love since childhood will not follow Tom's path, let alone through your mother's description. I am more certain, unless you want to be the second trick-or-treating devil in the wizarding world. After listening to Dumbledore's words, Seal rolled his eyes. Wait, the second one. Who was the first one? Who made the achievement of this society? Wah points. Oh, Newt will definitely be sad if you say that. Dumbledore looked at Charles and blinked mischievously. After hearing Dumbledore's reply, Seal was obviously stunned. Newt. Fantastic Beasts protagonist Newt. Damn, I know that his magical animals are a headache for the magic world of all countries, and even have the title of City Destroyer, but the big devil. This Char is the first to know. Having said that, the first-generation Dark Lord Grindelwald was actually defeated by the first-generation Trickster Demon Lord. I don't know what the old man will think now that he knows. Char thinks it is very interesting, and suddenly burst out laughing after thinking about it. Dumbledore watched Seal laugh with tears coming out, obviously curious, but before he could say anything, Hermione beside Seal was awakened. Dang, Headmaster Dumbledore. God, Seal, you're finally awake. Hermione saw the old headmaster sitting opposite at first sight, and was surprised to find that Seal was sitting very awake. On the bed, a huge joy filled Hermione's chest at once, prompting Hermione to go to Shire and hug him happily. God, Seal, you scared me to death. You don't know, the whole Forbidden Forest started to riot, and when Hagrid came out with you, I almost thought I would never see you. Hermione very excited to say a lot. Seal could only comfort Hermione slowly while giving Dumbledore an apologetic look. Old Comrade Dang was also very sensible. He didn't blame Hermione, but stood up plainly with his cup in hand. Well, I think Miss Granger still has a lot to say to you. When you were discharged from the hospital, I think we can continue the conversation just now, and as for now, I think we should give you back to Miss Granger. After Loudang finished speaking, he walked out the door with the cup in his hand. During the period, he did not forget to tease that it was nice to be young. Her face was flushed with the messing with Hermione, but he still hugged Seal and didn't let go, as if he let go of Seal. Will disappear again. Dumbledore walked to the gate as if he remembered something, and turned back to Charles and said, by the way, I will recycle the things. Our Mr. Dean is very satisfied with your performance. As for Fox, I think he still likes it very much. Yours, if you don't mind, continue to take care of it for a while. I'm an old man and it's hard to take care of it. After Dumbledore finished speaking, he closed the door. Seal rolled his eyes, feeling that he had been tricked by Old Dang. The Sorting Hat was obviously a test ordered by Old Dang. As for the Dean's gentleman behind him, Seal was also confused. Shui, Shutter decided to find time to ask Lao Dang to understand. What is Professor Dumbledore talking about? Hermione came out of Seal's arms blushing, and asked with some doubts. It seems that Charles is doing something behind her back. Before Seal could answer, Dumbledore came in through the door again. By the way, I hope you can knock on the door next time you come to me. Dumbledore winked mischievously, then closed the door and left. Shutter frantically complained about Lao Dang's disrespect and bad taste. Facing Hermione's dangerous eyes, he carefully said the test that the Sorting Hat gave him at the opening ceremony of the school. As well as some of the follow-up situations, Seal explained honestly. Of course, about Voldemort, Seal did not reveal anything about Voldemort. After listening to Seal's description, Hermione's eyes widened in surprise. She never expected that Seal, who seemed to be immersed in magic, had such a wonderful life, even as good as her and Ron. Harry's life. Finally, under the assurance of Shutter's next problem, Hermione turned around and walked away. If Shutter reminded him many times that he was about to go to class, he was still waiting for her notes. I'm sure that Hermione will definitely be berating herself here for more than half an hour. Time passed quickly. After a week of eating, sleeping, and eating salted fish in the school doctor's office, Charles was reluctantly kicked out by Madame Pomfrey. Looking back on the life in the school doctor's office, except that the potion was a bit unpleasant, Seal felt that life was really good. Of course, when he returned to the lounge on the night of his discharge, Seal received a warm welcome, and the twins even threw a party for Seal. Just when Seal was confused, the twins hugged Seal very cordially and began to ask about what happened in the Forbidden Forest. Seal, who understood what was going on, immediately looked at Ron. Ron saw Seal's gaze and gave Seal a thumbs up proudly. Well, Ron is a big mouth. He made a guess about what happened in the Forbidden Forest that night into a story. When Seal was hospitalized, he frantically directed his friends around him. Of course, at least the one where Malfoy urinated his pants. In the end, in the case of human-to-human transmission, it turned out to be something like Seal taking on the entire Forbidden Forest creature. Seal was speechless about this, and lamented that gossip is indeed the driving force behind human progress, and such outrageous rumors are believed by some. Charles was also speechless. After repeating the simple words to Hermione and the little wizards who were waiting to hear the bloody adventure story, Charles helplessly looked at their surprised expressions after making up their minds. It seemed that the party Shire couldn't escape. Finally, after a good night's sleep, Gryffindor, a group of energetic little wizards, all returned to their dormitories tired and rested. Seal also finally lay on his bed and slept peacefully with his arms around Fox who had just appeared. For Seal, today was exciting enough, the moment when the salted fish reached the hero and opened the door. Of course, any event will have a fever, and no one will mention it after the heat. After a period of time, Seal finally returned to the life of eating in class, practicing magic, and playing with the Phoenix at night. The only difference is that with Hermione, and after introducing the House of Requirement, Hermione and Seal began their practice career in pairs. Seal expressed that he was very happy about this. After all, whether it is good to practice or study, having a scholar to accompany him is definitely a multiplier. Of course, the only thing that depressed Seal and Hermione was that no matter how much Seal taught Hermione, they couldn't feel the presence of the elements. This made both of them discouraged for a long time, and Seal even once wondered if he could not teach people or something. Of course, the most leisurely part of the quartet is Ron. After all, Harry still has to practice Quidditch, and he is never absent every day in the wind and rain. Hermione and Seal are crazy to practice magic every day. On the contrary, it allowed Ron to live the salted fish life that Seal envied earlier. Chapter 39-Charlie's Happy Day. After Seal returned to his daily life, he began to intentionally ignore the conversation he had with Loudang. In Seal's words, it was too brain-burning. What kind of test, what a dean, etc. was too difficult for Seal. As for the Hufflepuff magic book in Seal's hand, after Seal copied a copy, he sent the original book back to the house elf in the kitchen. To pass on this thing, Seal felt that it was better to put it back where it belonged. Well, after all, this is the heritage of the school. As for Loudang, I think the second conversation should wait until the end of this semester to completely clean up Lao Fu and talk about it. So in the spirit of salted fish, Seal started the life of one of the few salted fish in the first grade. As for the breakthrough program where the boys and girls rushed forward at the end of the term, Seal said he was not worried. After all, when the time comes, let Harry go to shame. Speaking of the end of the term, Seal looked at Quirrell's pale face and somewhat resentful eyes, and Seal was relieved a lot. Plan to go to the room of requirement sometime, find the crown and hide it, never let the easy mode at the end of the term turn into a hell mode. Charles felt like he was okay again after his anxiety about confronting Voldemort was gone. The routine is back, and life is starting to get better again. Who said that the end of the period was approaching? But the gradually warmer weather made Seal really unable to hold back his heart for doing things. So Charles began a happy life with a king and 2 soldiers. What? Who is my soldier, you ask? That's a question, Harry and Ron. Under the temptation of Seal's statement that as long as he didn't get caught, even if he didn't violate the school rules, the 3 of them did a lot of great things behind Hermione's back. Of course, poor Draco was never so lucky when it came to accomplishing great things. After all, big things always need a protagonist. Unfortunately, Draco, who has a deep hatred with Ron, was selected. Of course these things will never let poor little dragon and Hermione know. Otherwise, it's hard to say what the result will be. Even Ron, who had the biggest mouth, learned the procedure of not shooting a gun and quietly entering the village under the guidance of Seal, keeping his mouth shut. Of course, after Harry went through Old Dang's arrangement, he always felt that Snape's idea of stealing the Philosopher's Stone for Voldemort was no longer so persistent under the theory that Shire and Hermione Voldemort were afraid of Dumbledore. Start to play with Seal with confidence, and learn from Hermione. The weather is getting warmer and warmer with the noise of a few people playing. Seal also gave up his exclusive seat in front of the fireplace and developed a new exclusive tree in front of the Black Lake. Yes, you heard that right. Shire found this place to have a view of the whole school and the lake. So I took Hermione and Ron to sit here reading books and basking in the sun. Of course it's not perfect, you have to ignore the big fat fish that occasionally jump out of the lake. Seal swears that he has never seen such a fat fish in his life and his last life. It's fine for a day or two, and I can read books seriously or joke with a few. After a long time, Shire will always look at the fish unconsciously, and tears will flow from the corners of his mouth. Hermione, who knew too much about Seal, immediately noticed something was wrong with Seal, and repeatedly advised Seal not to hurt the fish in the Black Lake. Finally, on a fine afternoon, Seal, Ron and Harry still took action against a fatty fish in the Black Lake. Under Seal's petrification spell, Ewer did not expect that he would not be able to go back if he jumped into the water. When Seal knocked on Hagrid's door with a big fish almost as tall as him, Hagrid was also a little confused. But because of what happened last time in the Forbidden Forest, Hagrid always felt a little guilt towards Seal, as if it was because of him that Seal was hospitalized. After Seal explained to no avail, he didn't think much about it, and just in time for this activity of eating big fish to ease Hagrid's guilt. After Hagrid helped dispose of the internal organs of the fish, Seal began to operate. In his previous life, Seal, such as grilled fish, ate a lot, so it was naturally easy to operate. What surprised Seal the most was that Hagrid's hut looked simple, but all the seasonings that he had seen and had not seen were readily available. Make Charles very happy. Finally, after Harry ran to bring Hermione, Hermione looked at the grilled fish in the cauldron, thought about it and said nothing, but picked up the guy and a few people to eat in full swing. I have to say that this era is not as serious as the pollution of later generations, especially Hogwarts, which is absolutely natural and pollution-free. Although I don't know what kind of fish this is, it doesn't affect the mouths full of oil that the Shire people eat. The four little ones were lying on Hagrid's big bed holding their stomachs and squirming with difficulty, trying to do it. Only Hagrid is still fighting. After all, Hagrid is huge and naturally eats a little more. After a long time, only the bones of the fish that were about the size of seal were left. Hagrid also naturally hiccuped. "Charles, I never knew you could cook so well." Hagrid looked surprised. Harry and Ron next to him also agreed wildly. After all, it was the first time for them to come into contact with the cuisine of the great Celestial dynasty. In comparison, Hermione seemed much calmer. "There's still a lot you don't know, hee, but to be honest, this fish is really fat. I haven't eaten such a delicious fish for a long time." Seal sighed while rubbing his stomach. "Seal, where did you get this fish?" Hermione asked with a serious look at Seal. Hearing Hermione's question, the three boys froze for a moment, and finally Seal hesitantly explained where he came from. I thought that it would be Hermione's lecture time again, but in the end, our little Harry smacking his lips just lightly told Shire not to go fishing. Although the fish is really delicious. Hermione's transformation really surprised several boys, and Seal even touched Hermione's head and wondered if Hermione was possessed or something. After taking a headbutt from Hermione, it was confirmed that it was Hermione herself. Hagrid smiled and looked at the little guys, feeling that this afternoon was great. The happy time is always short, and the end of the term is in the blink of an eye. The teacher's homework load begins to increase. Even Seal and Hermione have to spend a lot of time on homework, not to mention Harry and Law. Well, Hermione even made a professional review plan for several people a month in advance, but except for Seal, Harry and Ron obviously did not follow it. Finally, the final exam came as promised. Of course, before the exam, Seal found a time to secretly change the crown. Of course, he didn't bring it out. He simply changed the place to hide things into a place to go to the toilet room. Of course, Seal didn't dare to touch the crown in the whole process. At this time, I have to say that the magic of the golem is really convenient. In the final exam, the transformation class was to turn a mouse into a snuff box. After Charles asked what the snuff box was, he easily made a fine enamel snuff box. The magic spell test is to make a pair dance a certain dance, and Seal is not polite. He directly combines the transformation technique to turn the pairs into four, and then comes a little swan, which is also dubbed by Seal. Professor Flitwick has repeatedly praised. In the subsequent exams, except for the magician, Seal's performance was so-so. Anyway, Seal is confident that he will pass. The only thing that made Seal uncomfortable was the potions class. When handling some materials, the goosebumps on Seal's body never subsided. After he finished, he went to wash his hands several times, and even disliked his own hands. Chapter 40 _ the beginning of the breakthrough. After the exam came out, Hermione kept talking about some things about the exam, and even complained about things like the rebellion that didn't need to carry the goblin. A few people walked on the campus avenue, preparing to go to Hagrid's hut. Hagrid said that he contacted Harry at the end of the exam, saying that he had caught a fatter fish and invited them to celebrate the end of the semester with him after the exam. Several people, including Hermione, agreed, and only Seal expressed doubts, and said that the few of you appointed were trying to trick me into becoming a cook. Just as the group was about to reach Hagrid's hut, Harry suddenly seemed to remember something, and quickly ran to Hagrid to ask something. Before Seal could react, he started pulling the group back and ran back. I felt something was wrong before. Hagrid wanted to raise a dragon, but a stranger appeared and gave him a dragon egg. Who would carry a dragon egg with him? And Hagrid actually revealed how to pass the three-headed dog. We have to find Professor Dumbledore, Harry said as he walked. Both Hermione and Ron had the same expressions on their faces. Although Seal understood what was going on, he still pretended to look at the three of them with a dazed expression. Hermione explained the ins and outs of Shire as they walked, what Snape spelled Harry's broomstick, what Snape threatened Quirrell. Even under Harry's reasoning, Snape was the black-robed wizard who attacked the Shire in the Forbidden Forest that night. Seal was already laughing in his heart, but he still pretended to be surprised. After all, watching movies on the spot has always been Seal's favorite. This time, Seal also positioned himself as a nanny, watching the three of them avoid danger. By the way, of course, Seal didn't forget to complain about Professor Snape. Although it was the arrangement of the old head dang, Snape, you were really stable and dark. Of course, when a few people arrived at Professor McGonagall's place, and it was no surprise that old Dang was not at the school, Harry immediately decided to get the Philosopher's Stone first tonight. Of course, the action is in the evening, and it will not delay a few people to have a meal of grilled fish in Shire and Hagrid, which is a meal of courage. After eating, a few people started planning their trip tonight while walking, and a few people decided to pick up the Philosopher's Stone after the curfew tonight. But here's the problem. With Seal, there are 4 people in total, but Harry's invisibility cloak can only hold 3 at most. This worried Harry, and in the end, Charles said he didn't need to think about him, he would wait for them at the door on the 4th floor ahead of time. Several people went back to the dormitory and fell asleep. After all, there were still activities at night. At about 10 o'clock in the evening, Seal got out of bed, and after tidying up his personal hygiene, Seal calmly hugged Fawkes, and then humbly begged Fawkes to send him to the appointed place. Of course, Fawkes finally sent Seal to the place. You can't apparate in Hogwarts, but this principle doesn't work for Fawkes at all. It was also the first time that Seal was moved by Fawkes. It felt really amazing, Fawkes. The way it moves is not something like apparition being stuffed into a rubber tube, but something like a flame. Anyway, Seal definitely gave Fawkes a 5-star praise, at least not as uncomfortable as the description of apparition in the original book, but it made Seal feel very comfortable. At that moment, Seal had the idea of secretly taking Fawkes and not returning it to Loudang. When Sha'ur arrived, the trio had just set off, and Sha'ur was not in a hurry. He sat on the ground leaning against the guardrail and gently rubbed Fawkes in his arms, and then kept tempting it to abandon Loudang and follow him, causing Fawkes to go straight. Roll your eyes. Finally, after waiting for a while, the trio appeared in front of Seal. My God, Seal, when did you arrive? Hermione looked at Seal in surprise. It's not long since I arrived, don't ask, keep it a secret. Seal smiled and looked at the 3 of them. Ron opened his mouth and closed it again after Seal finished answering. Then, let's start. Seal, we have the invisibility cloak again. We'll go in first, you'll break later. Harry said. Seal shrugged and said okay, and then Hermione opened the door with a hole in Hora. There was a harp playing music in the door, and the 3-headed dog Luwei was snoring. God, this smells so stinky. It must have been a long time since he brushed his teeth. As soon as Seal entered the door and closed the door, he heard Ron whispering to Harry. Shire and Hermione rolled their eyes very neatly, indicating that Ron's IQ was really worrying, and then they started to move the big paw of the 3-headed dog together. After all, it was pressing on the trapdoor. A few people finally opened the door under Luwei's claws, crouched on it, and the 4 of them looked at the dark hole. To be honest, if it wasn't for Seal to know, he would be a little terrified. Wait, don't you think it's too quiet? Ron asked, looking at the hole and scratching his head. Several people slowly raised their heads. At this time, the 3-headed dog was awake, and it stood up almost to the ceiling. The 3 heads looked at the 4 people, and the saliva slowly began to flow from the corners of his mouth. In Seal's opinion, the dog was not very smart. Jump! Harry roared angrily, and led a few people to jump down the trapdoor first. Seal was the last to jump down, and Luwei almost bit Seal in the head. Fortunately, the ground was not hard, and the 4 people smashed into a soft net-like plant. Don't move, it's the devil's net, relax and it will let you down. Seal reminded aloud. Of course, if you don't mind, you can also enjoy it with me. After Seal struggled, he used his wand to release a small ball of light that floated in the sky. With the slight struggle of Seal and then the light and dark of the ball of light flickered. Devil Ned is like a competent masseuse, constantly massaging the bodies of the 4 people, and Charles even sighed comfortably that this thing is really good, otherwise we will be here after sleeping for a while. Of course, this proposal was clearly rejected. Especially Harry, who seemed to be Harry Holmes at this time, was eloquent to the analysis of several people who were addicted to the massage. Falling asleep with a simple Lu-Wei, and the harp that plays automatically on it proves that the person who wants to steal the Philosopher's Stone is definitely in, no matter who he is. A few people simply wrote ink for a while, and then with the light of Ciel's invention, the 4 of them fell to the ground below and fell into a fart. God, I'm starting to miss the Devil's Web massage. Ron had some complaints, although he was the one who was the worst in the movie, and in the end, it was Hermione who had to save him. Then a few people heard a sound like the flapping of insect wings, and Seal was immediately stressed. I hope there aren't some big flying bugs ahead, or I'll definitely go back to the bedroom to sleep right away. Before Harry could answer, Fox, who was standing on Ciel's shoulders, rolled his eyes first. Really, I have never seen an elemental mage be afraid of bugs, Fox said, and my eyes were opened.